So awards can be found on a URL in on the internet. It doesn't live in the internet. We just, it's housed there. So this is the URL to access your database. This login page may look familiar to a lot of you. For some of you, maybe the first time you've ever seen it, but you'll all have your own unique username and password. I do want to point out, if you ever forget your username or password, you can use the links at the bottom of the page here. Now, these links only work if you have a security question answered in awards. And I will show you how to answer security question in awards in just a moment. But I do want to point out that you don't ever have to ask your supervisor to reset your password because you forgot your awards password. You can use this button here and you'll be able to reset your own password. You don't ever have to bother anyone. Okay. So I'm going to log into awards. And just a reminder, again, you're just watching my screen here. And when I log in, I'm brought to this homepage. Every time you log into awards, this is the page that you'll see. Now, a little navigation for our new people that have never seen awards. At the top of this page, there is a blue bar. This blue bar is going to follow you on every single page in awards. So if you need anything on this blue bar, don't worry. Even if you're on someone's face sheet or progress notes, you can get to this information here. Starting on the left, there is a button that looks like 3 pieces of paper. This is the awards button. This is also the correct way to jump back in awards. So if you ever need to go back to the previous page, you click on this button to do that. You don't ever click on the arrows in your browser, as that's not the correct way to jump back in awards. And awards may get confused as to why you're on that page and you may lose data. To the right of the awards button is your beautiful agency logo. This is also a hidden print button. So if you ever needed to print out a progress note, a face sheet, whatever it is, you can use this logo to print out the awards page. And I will say that that the reason for that is that when you click on that button, it removes this blue bar that follows you everywhere you go, because it doesn't look great on a printout. To the right of your agency's logo, there is the search button. This is where you can search for any person that your agency serves. If Bruce Wayne shows up, you can search for Bruce Wayne and see any program that has ever served Bruce. To the right of the search button, there is the home button. Anytime you want to get back to this page that you see before you, click on that home button. The calendar. We have a lovely calendar in awards where you can document like program appointments and also provider appointments, all that good stuff here. Messages, you can send and receive messages to and from other awards users. You can also receive sort of automatic messages or auto messages from awards itself, indicating that, oh, someone went to the hospital, or this person has some event that's upcoming. That is all done in the messages module. Now, you cannot send a message to your Gmail or Outlook or Teams. These messages are HIPAA compliant, so they stay in awards. To the right of messages, there is the reports menu. If you need a report, this is the place you're going to. I love reports. And you will love reports too if you run any reports and awards, because they're very fast and very quick. To the right of the reports menu is going to be your name. When you hover your mouse on your name, you get a secret menu. This menu here has a few options, one of which, or the very first option, is this e-signatures. Now, to e-sign something in awards, you're going to be setting up a 5-digit PIN. And anytime you go to sign something, you're going to be entering in that 5-digit PIN. This is where you set up that 5-digit PIN. So here, when I click on this e-signatures button, I'll be brought to this page where at the very top, I can enter in my initials or full name image. And there are 2 ways to do that. I can choose a file from my computer, or I can use the signature pad or this touch option. I'm going to demonstrate the touch option by clicking on the word touch. and a big white Etch-a-Sketch shows up, or a big white box. Some of you might not know what an Etch-a-Sketch is. I'm pretty old. I know what that is. But here you can see it's a big white box. And if I was on my phone accessing this page, I can use my finger or an iPad. Or since I'm on a computer, I can click and drag my mouse and then enter in my image for my initials or full name. And that's my initials. The other option is this choose file option. This is where, if you wanted to, you can take a picture of your image, and then you can sort of send that to your computer, either by email or AirDrop, whatever it is that you have. And once that file is on your computer, you can then choose that file by clicking, of course, choose file. And here you select the file that you want and then click open. And when you save the page, that image will be saved as your signature in Awards. Okay, and that'll show up every time that you want to sign with either your initials or full name. Now, the most important step here is to actually enter in a 5-digit PIN. And you do that by putting in this under PIN, you put in 5 digits. Now, this cannot be letters, it cannot be symbols, it cannot be emojis. It must be 5 digits. Okay, so just want to point that out. Once you do that, you can scroll down. And here, I do want to point out, you can make a signature your default. So you can either have it be the full name, the initials image, or no image. Since I have a full name and an initials, I can choose one of these 2 options. If when you do this, you do not enter in an image, you would have to select no image. But since I have an image here, I'm going to say that my full name image is going to be the default image. However, you can always change that. Below that, there is the default consumer signature. Now, people that you serve, they can sign off on items, and you can make that the either one of these the default, so that you don't always have to choose it every single time. I'm just going to choose no default. And then at the very bottom of the page is a beautiful green button in all capital letters. That is the save button. And in this case, that save button says update. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click update. And I'll be brought to a page here with no red lettering. This is a confirmation page. And on this page, it just states here my initials image and full name image. My PIN is set and valid. And that's how I know that I have set up my e-signature. Any questions about this?
I just wanted to say, is everyone comfortable getting their staff to do the signatures? Because we know we've struggled with that sometimes.
Yeah, I've had a lot of issues with it. It seems like sometimes I can get it to work, and then sometimes I can't. I've been trying to figure it out. So this part is really helpful. So
great to hear, Larry.
Yeah.
All right, there are no other questions. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, just kidding, you're going to accept it, is you are all going to create an e-signature PIN. Now, I do understand some of you have already done this step, and that's okay, because I want you all to just simply write done in the Zoom chat, and you can just write done as long as you check to see that you have an e-signature PIN. Okay, but everyone else, if this is new to you, I want you all to log into Awards and then go and enter in an e-signature PIN. If you have any questions or need any assistance, I am here to help you. Little journey here. And the next item on the agenda that I want to talk about is to go to your name and enter in a security question and answer. Again, the purpose of this is so that if you ever forget your password, like I've forgotten a million passwords in my lifetime, if you ever forget your password, you have the ability to easily reset your own password. And you can only do that as long as you have, under password and security, a security question and answer here. Now, on this page, you can reset your password. We don't need to do that for today. But below that, we have the security question. The security question and answer have a pretty red asterisk. This means that this is a required field and we cannot save the page without entering in this information. So here for security question, I have 6 questions here. I did not create these questions. They're just the default questions here. And here I'm going to select one of these 6 questions and then answer it on the right-hand side underneath security answer. And yes, I met my spouse at OkCupid. Below security question, there is your work email address. This is where you make sure that this email address is correct. Because if it isn't correct, well, then you won't be able to reset your password. So these 2 things have to be set up. Your work email address has to be set up correctly, and also your security question needs to be answered.
Chris, I think one of the issues here with this is the fact that we have staff who are either relief or, for the most part, relief who don't have BFNC emails.
Oh, you know what? It's not going to, you can see mine says Foothold Technology. It's not going to limit you. So you can put in a Gmail account here, a Yahoo account. It's totally fine. Okay. And also, you can keep the work email blank and put in a personal email. It's totally up to you. So to save the page, I'm going to click on that green update button and I'll be brought to a confirmation page that has no red lettering. And here you'll see that my password has not been updated, which is correct, but my security answer has been updated. So that information is saved. And now if I ever forget my password, I can click on that forgot password button. It's going to ask me my email address. It's then going to ask me my security question. I answer it, and I'm then able to reset my password. Any questions about that? Okay. The next activity for you all is to select a security question and answer the security question. When you're done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. If your security question answer is already filled out, simply write done in the Zoom chat and we can move forward. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is, first of all, if you ever forget your e-signature pin, you set up that e-signature pin 2 activities ago. All right. Let's say you forgot what those 5 digits were that you set up. I want you all to know that you all have the ability to reset your own e-signature pin yourself. And that can be done. And again, you're just going to be watching my screen here. That can be done by hovering my mouse on my name and clicking the e-signatures button. When I do that, I'll be brought to this page where at the very bottom, there's this reset pin button. This is how I and you all can reset your pin in case you're trying to sign a document. You forgot your pin. You can come here to this page, click reset pin. It's going to ask you to confirm your name. And when you do that, it's going to say, hey, this is going to wipe out your pin. And it's also going to wipe out or erase your images that you previously saved. You would then have to re-upload or re-enter your signature or for your name or initials. Okay, so just want to point out, you don't have to ask anyone to reset your e-signature pin. You have that ability to do that yourself. Okay. All right, next thing I want to talk about, again, when I hover my mouse on my name, it's the very last button and it's the most important button. This is the only HIPAA approved way of logging out of awards, and that is to click this log out button. If you do not click this log out button and you click on, let's say, the red X at the top of your browser, you are technically still logged into awards. And someone could then open up your browser. Yep, it does time out, but it also, if someone gets to your computer before it times out, you're still logged into awards. And so this is your foolproof way of logging out of awards. Also, some agencies don't love it when it sees that staff times out of their session. So I want you to be mindful that this is the only way to log out of awards. If you don't do this, someone could access awards and see other, patient information or people that you serve, and that would be a HIPAA violation, right? Okay. So that is the bar that follows you everywhere you go in awards. Now let me talk to you about the 95% of the other part of the page here. Right below the blue bar, there's going to be this program dropdown. This program dropdown is going to show you all the programs that you have chart access to. So if you're looking for a person in a specific program, you can select the program that they are in, and then you can click on the appropriate buttons down below. Today's training is going to take place in the Training CR Supervised Housing Program. If you don't have access to that program, please let me know, as we're going to be doing all of our data entry in that program. To the extreme left, there is this beige looking menu. This menu has a bunch of buttons on it. Awards opens to this charts button. This is where most staff do the data entry on a day-to-day basis. That's why we open up to the charts activities. From here, you can see there are all these colorful buttons, and if you click on any one of these buttons, the menu will fly open. These menus go alphabetical from A to Z, from top to bottom. So that's why allergies is at the top, vital signs is at the bottom. If there are any forms that are in a menu, and there can be many places that forms live in awards, they can show up on a menu at the very bottom below all of the other items. And here you can see my forms has 2 arrows. So if I click on the word forms, I can see all of the forms that are available for this program. And I do want to point out that different programs will have access to different forms. So if you're looking for, a SAM baseline and you're not seeing it, well, it could be that you're in the wrong program, and I can select the correct program. And when I do that, some programs won't even have forms under the medical module. Okay, so I just want to point that out. Now, if I click on services individual, individual is where staff are going to be completing progress notes and also plans and reviews. Really useful items here that you can access right from the home screen. All the way on the left-hand side, if I click on the census button, that's the very top button right below the agency logo. And this is where staff that do intake and admission and discharge, this is where they start those processes by going to intake admission or discharge. Below discharge, there is the profile button. The profile button is where all of the face sheets live. So if you need to access someone's face sheet, you can come here. You can also search for your person and click on their name and then be taken to their face sheet. So 2 doors that go to the same room. Okay. All right. So by the way, below charts, there's administration. Administration is where folks that do administrative work complete those tasks. This is where people set permissions and do all types of HR related items. Is there a question? No. Okay. Yes, Larry.
No, well, I'm just the one part with the housing, with the census. I had a question in that.
Oh yeah. What do you got?
You didn't go to the housing part.
That's right, I didn't. And the housing button here, this is where you can do resident swaps and also enter in the person's external housing. Good catch, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be doing the resident swap in just a few minutes. Mm-hmm. So those are the 3 buttons here. The 4th button, this Foothold Connect button, this is where we put announcements in awards. We are constantly updating awards. We're not as bad as Apple where with the new versions or new software, but we are constantly updating awards. And unlike Apple, you don't actually have to download anything. We update awards constantly, and you don't ever have to download a new version of awards. It will update automatically. But you can see all of those new features by clicking on the new features in awards button. That would show a little pop-up, and you can access that there. There are also events where you can check out a webinar about the new enhancements. We also have tips of the month, as well as agency announcements. People in your agency have the ability to add agency announcements. You can see there's one here to please remember to log out of Foothold when you are away from your computer. Great advice. I commend you all to have that. So those items can be found under the Foothold Connect button. When you do that, this box will pop up. To get out of it, you click the close button. But that is my little 10-cent tour around awards. Any questions about any of the features that I showed you?
I just have a simple question.
Sure.
I know that in awards, you talked about if you click on our logo up top to the left, you can just automatically print from there. I would always go under awards to the right and click there, and then there's a print option there. So I appreciate that quick step. See, there's a print option.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Sometimes, yeah, if people see this because it's spelled out for you, but yeah, it's a great note. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right. The next item to talk about is intake admission. Intake admission happens from the census button here. There's this intake admission. However, I do want to point out if people, if you don't know if someone's ever been in your agency before, you should start the process by clicking on this search button. That's what I'm going to do to demonstrate. However, for today's assignment, you're all just going to go log into awards, go to census, and go to intake admission. I just want to point that out. But here, I'm going to search for someone named Clark Kent. And you can see here that I'm using just a couple letters of Clark's name, and I'm not putting the capitalization in or anything. And I do want to point that out because awards doesn't care about capitalization on the search results. And also, I want you to be mindful of the way people, have their names. Just like maybe someone's name is Joe, and you search for J-O-E, and they don't show up. And it could be because their legal name is actually Joseph, J-O-S. So I want you to use as little characters as possible to find your person that you're looking for. But here, I'm going to click the search button. And here on my search results page, I have my person, or my search results finds a Clark Kent with this social and date of birth here. I can see their gender, their race, and under status, it's showing me which program that they've ever been in. So I can see that information here. And if this is the person that I was looking for, well, I can, use this information exactly as it is here to input my person. However,
Chris, I just wanted to make one, I'm sorry to interrupt,
No
but
problem.
just so that there's one clarification, we had only really a decision to make in terms of which program or which program to use in the training program. So we just picked the CRR supervised housing because it encompasses a lot of these tabs. So a lot of these things are used. And Chris, a lot of these people that are on right now, like Richard and and others, Daisy and everything, they're not in the supervised housing program.
okay.
So I just wanted to make sure they were aware this is why you see this, because we really only had to pick one of the programs to use.
Gotcha. Yeah, not a problem. Thank you so much. So from the search results page, I'm going to say that, you know what, this isn't the same Clark Kent that I'm looking for. Different date of birth and different social, and, you know, they're also female, whatever it is. From here, I can quickly get to the intake admission menu by clicking on this intake admission menu button. When I do that, I'll be taken to this page. And from here, I can enter in my person's name and then click continue. However, I do want to point out, if I was on the home screen, I can get to that same exact page by simply going to census and then clicking intake admission. And here I'm back on this page where I'm going to put in my person's name and then click continue. On this page, I have a beautiful green button. That's the only button to click on. I'm going to click on create new application. And this is the admission form. And as Celia was saying, this admission form will look different depending on the program that you are working with, you know, after today. Everyone's going to be using this training CR supervised housing program. So this is the admission form. And here on the intake date, I can choose an intake date from the drop down. The page will blink after I make a selection here. I just want to point that out. I'm going to choose the 1st of this month. The residence here, this is for residential programs. So not everyone will have this option. This residence dropdown, this is showing us all of our vacant units and also our occupied units. And you might be thinking, well, gosh, why is it showing me occupied units? That seems strange. However, in awards, occupied units are defined as like beds that have a one or more bed in that unit. So think of it as like a 2-bedroom apartment, and one of those beds is occupied. So then the other bed would be listed that doesn't have anyone in it as an occupied unit. I'm going to select one of these residences. I'm also going to enter in a primary worker. You'll notice that there is no required field here. There is no pretty red asterisk. However, I'm going to enter in that information anyway. I'm going to use my name, but I do also want to point out, you also have this unassigned option as well. So I'm just going to use my name. Bruce's first and last name are already entered. By the way, if there's any questions, you just let me know. Below the person's first name, there is the birth date. Birth date is a required field. And this is where I can enter in my person's birth date. I can use the calendar button, or I can just type in 6 digits. And I tell that to you as a shortcut, because if this person's birthday was 9/9/1990, I can do 09/09/90. And awards knows that that is September 9th, 1990. If you like using the slashes in between the month and day and year, you can of course do that. When you're using slashes, you can also do 4 digits for the year if that's something that you want to do. But I like to tell people 6 digits does the trick. Okay. Social Security number. For all of the people that we're entering in today, you're all going to be entering in 9 9s. The same is true for all people where you don't collect that information or you don't know that information. You're going to be entering in 9 9s as a placeholder. And the reason for that is awards is constantly checking for duplicate Social Security numbers, except for 9 9s. Awards knows that 9 9s is a placeholder, and it omits that from its count. Gender identity. This is our list of gender identity. I'm going to enter in my gender and any other information that I may or may not know. Below phone, there's street address. I want to point out for this program for today, we're going to keep this blank. Okay, don't enter in any information here. Below the move-in date, which we're keeping blank, is race. Race is a required field. It has a pretty red asterisk. This is a multi-select where, because people give me more than one race, right? You can check off as many options as you want. Below that, there are all these other fields that are not required for this program to be admitted. However, some, if your supervisor says, hey, I want you to fill in all this information, at this time of admission, you're going to listen to them and not me. I'm just here to tell you that there are no required fields underneath that race field. And if you scroll down, you'll see that there are a few buttons here. I'm here to tell you again that the save button is the button in capital letters. And in this case, it says housing admission. Before I click housing admission, I do want to point out that there are some more multi-select fields here, like special needs and services sought, where you can just check off those items. And when you're ready to save the page, you of course review this information and then click the housing admission button. When you do that, you'll be brought to the person's admission form. And this is a confirmation page. You'll have a pretty green button here to update the referral source. But that is how you complete an admission for this.
Chris, can I just state one thing?
Of course.
So prior to anybody being able to admit a client in, especially on residential side, the address has to go in prior. So if it's a client that is out in the community, I have to put the address in prior to them being able to be admitted in, because obviously the resident isn't available yet until the client does move in, but somebody else has to put that in first.
Okay. The reason why I said to keep that blank is because for this residential program, it's going to update the person's residence as soon as they're admitted, because this field is required here. And it's going to have this Falcon Street show up as their address.
But that's the address I would have to put in prior to them even trying to admit the client.
Okay.
So they cannot admit the client unless I have the address to put in, or whomever. I think it's only myself and one other person that puts in the address. Is there a way that they can go around that, or no?
So the way this admission form is, and this is your training program, I don't know if your live programs are like this. Let me show you. I'm going to go to the intake menu. I'm just going to very quickly do this same process again, where I'm going to put in a new residence, and I'm going to here, I'm going to put in 12 Main Street. I'm doing this pretty quickly because I've already done this, but I just want to test this out. So I put in a street address. I also have this residence here of 97 Falcon Street. And when I go to save the page here, great. So this is now the person's residence, and that address does in fact save here. So yeah, they can put that in. Are you saying that? So when you want,
Chris, I think what Tracy's saying. So we use the central intake for all the programs.
Okay.
So yeah, so that still exists. Tracy, he's just really kind of showing, again, this is not, we chose one training program to use, and this was the best way to do it. But it's not, it's going to be different when we use central intake. So, I mean, this was just something that, for an example, to show how to input this information.
Okay, because I'm like, okay, I do that differently. So
Yeah,
Gotcha.
no,
I'm like,
this is,
did something change that I don't know about?
no, it was just, like I said before, it was just, we chose one program to go through, because otherwise he'd have how many programs to have to show in this training, and that would not be a one-day training. That would be, maybe a 2-day training. This used to be a 2-day training way back when, so we kind of had to cut it down. So it's just something that he's showing how to input this, like different information, how to complete these cells rather than, yeah, this is how, our program is going to be different when we, it's separate.
As long as I know I don't have to change something, I'm good.
Yes, you do not.
As long-
Great. Thank you
I
for
was like,
speaking
did I
up.
miss something?
Thank you for speaking up, and thank you so much, Celia, for answering that. Excellent.
Good
Thank
morning.
you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Elisa. I have a question. When you put the residence address up there at top
Mm-hmm.
and you put the new address, and the new address is going to cancel out the old one, correct?
Yeah. Well, again, this is a sort of, what's the word? A unique situation because you're not using this process. So I don't think this will be something that you'll ever actually have to worry about. But this, so does that make sense? Like this scenario, it does cancel this street address, but you're never gonna have to worry about that. And I'm gonna show you how to update someone's external housing address.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. And I do apologize for confusing folks if I did. All right. You all now have an activity. And that activity, I'm just going to scroll down past my little quiz. Up, where is my activity? Security question. And let's see. There we go. All right. You're going to admit a person into the program, the Training CR Supervised Housing Program. The residents will be assigned to you. You can't have the same, two people in the same bed. So I need to assign someone to you. The admission date is going to be 12/1/2022. So that is your assignment. I'm now going to be telling you all which residents you can use. Okay. So as you all come back from break, the first question on our pop quiz is to log off of awards. You A, click the red X at the top right corner. B, unplug the computer. C, click the logout button. Or D, ask Siri to log out. Answer in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever it is that you like. I'm seeing some C's. Is that your final answer, as they say? And it is true. That is C. You click the log out button to log out of awards. Great job, everyone. Next question. If you forgot your e-signature PIN, you can A, email your supervisor to reset it. B, call 311. C, reset your PIN yourself by clicking reset PIN. Or D, none of the above. Yeah, I gotta say, I should really stop putting two C answers right next to each other. But that is correct. It is C. Thank you all so much. Next question is a true or false question. To reset your password, you must have a security question answered. True or false? Yes, I'm seeing some T's. What did Suzanne say? Oh, I see. Great job. Yes, it is true. Thank you all so much. Last question, and then we'll continue on with the training. A required field in awards is indicated by A, blinking text, B, a red asterisk, C, nothing, or D, sirens. Which one is it? I'm seeing some B's in the chat, and that is correct. It is, in fact, B. Great job, everyone. Thank you all so much for playing. We'll get back to that quiz a little bit later on. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, after we've admitted our person, hopefully, I will say, not everyone not having the same training program, it's a little hard to corral. But I'm going to do my best. So the first thing I want to talk about is, was there a question? Okay. First thing I want to talk about is face sheet data entry. you can access the face sheet for the person that you just admitted or any person by simply, there are two different ways to do this. The first way is to search for your person. So if I click on this search button here, I can type in my person's name and then click the search button. Here, I'll see the people that match my results. You'll see here, by the way, there are two Bruce Waynes here. There's one Bruce Wayne that has asterisks for the date of birth and social. The reason for that is because I don't have chart access to this youth diversion reentry program or the central intake program. So I should not be seeing that person's social and date of birth. That would be considered a HIPAA violation. So just want to point that out. If you ever see on your search results page that information, just means that you don't have chart access to that program. Now, the record below that, that's the Bruce Wayne that I was working with previously, and I can simply click on Bruce's name. And here I'll be brought to a Bruce-centric page or a consumer-centric page where I can very easily get to multiple items that I want to click on, like let's say hospitalization or progress notes, or what I came here to show you is to access the face sheet. So here I'm going to click the face sheet button and I'm on my person's face sheet. Now, I do want to show you that you can get to the same face sheet by just going from the home page and then clicking census, selecting the correct program, of course, click the profile button, and then the face sheet button. And here I'll have a drop down of all the consumers in the program. I have to sift through all these names and find the person that I want to work with, and then click the continue button. And I'm brought back to my person's face sheet. So 2 doors to the same room. Okay. Now, the face sheet is 2 things. It's very long, so very, very long face sheet. And it's also in read-only mode at first. So let's say Bruce's birthday is actually September 13th, 1990. I can't change that on this page here. To update any item on my person's face sheet, you have to scroll down to the bottom of that section and click the green update button. That is how you update a section on the face sheet. And you can see if I scroll down, there are many different sections here with many different update buttons. So these are all different because if there's just one update button for the face sheet, you would not like awards. So just want to point that out. So I'm going to update the demographic data for my person, and I'm going to click update demographic data. And it's here that the page flips open into data entry mode, where I can change things like the person's birthday, like I said before, but I can also update all different types of information. You'll spy that I cannot update the address, and that's because this is a residential program, and this residence is defaulting because this is the residence my person's in. Moving down the page, though, I want to add a cell phone number for my person. So I'm going to put in a cell phone number for them. And of course, I can enter in all other kinds of information. To save the page, there is that green button in capital letters. So I'm going to click on that green button. That'll bring me back to my face sheet where the items that I saved or entered show up here. And the face sheet will show you current information. Any questions about that? All right. Your next activity is you're all going to enter a cell phone number for your consumer that you previously admitted. And then you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. If you have any questions or if you had trouble admitting someone and you don't have someone, please let me know. All right. The next item that I want to talk about is also on the face sheet. And I want to talk about adding an entitlement to your person's chart. And more specifically, I want you to be adding an insurance to to your person's chart. Now you can do that from the face sheet. Like I said here on the face sheet, it's a very long form. And here underneath support services contacts, there's entitlement information for your person. Now, to update this section, you click on the green update button. So that's what I'm going to click on. And I'll be brought to a page that has a lot of different add buttons. There are income generating entitlements, insurance, bank account info, and miscellaneous entitlements. I'm going to be adding an insurance. So I'm going to click add new eligibility for underneath insurance. And here you can see the eligibility. Here, if I click on this drop down, these are all of my different options. I'm going to choose one of these options. I'm going to put in an ID number. The effective date is required. I'm going to enter in an effective date. And if I know the expiration date, I can put that in, but I'm just going to keep that blank. If there's a self-pay or co-payment amount that you know of, you can put that in here. The coordination of benefits, this is the primary, secondary, or tertiary benefit. You can indicate that here. You can also leave it blank. It's not required, right? Is the benefits assigned? Is that a yes or a no? And if the consumer is the subscriber, you can enter in yes or no. If you answer in no, you then have to put in the subscriber's name. So just like I'm on my wife's insurance, I would have to, put in my wife's information here. But I'm just going to choose the default of yes. Once I review this information, to save the information, you click this update button. And that'll bring me back to my face sheet where that nice information lives. And that's how you add insurance information to your person's chart. Any questions about that? Okay. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is I want you all to enter in an entitlement for your person. Add a new insurance, select any option. If you have any trouble along the way, please feel free to unmute, type it in the chat, whatever it is that you like. And then when you're done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. All right. Now that we've added an entitlement to our person's chart, I now want to show you how to add a diagnosis to the person's chart. That can, again, be done from the face sheet. It doesn't have to be. I'll more on that in just a moment. But to enter in a diagnosis, I can go down to the diagnosis section. And I do want to point out, like I said before, the face sheet's pretty long, right? You can get lost with all the words. My eyesight's not that great. I want to show you a little, what's the word? A little shortcut or a little trick. And it's not really an awards trick. It's a keyboard or a browser trick. If I hold down Control and the letter F as in Frank, then this little search box pops up. At least it does in Google Chrome. If you're using a different browser, I don't know what it does there, but a box will pop up with this little search box. And here I can type in the word diagnosis or just start typing in that word, and it will highlight those letters or that word accordingly. And here you can see the current diagnosis info and to update the diagnosis. So that's just a little trick for you. You can do that in all over awards because, again, there's a lot of words on these pages, and this is just to help you. So I'm now going to add a diagnosis to my person's chart. So when I click this update diagnosis info button, it's going to take me to the diagnosis page for my person. Now, you'll see this page a lot in awards. You can see here the program and the consumer show up. And to add an item on this index, I click on this little green button. You're going to hear me say little green button a lot. And that's because there are a lot of little green buttons, and that's how you add things in awards. So here, when I click on the little green button, there is this diagnosis date, condition, and ICD-10 code. These are all required fields. So here I have to put in the diagnosis date and the condition and the ICD-10 code. It's here that I want to point out that these are just simply text boxes in the condition and ICD-10 code. Your agency can have an add-on so that you have this IMO search so that everyone's, diagnosis is like correct. Because, I used to work at an agency and we, staff had to put in a diagnosis and they would misspell things all the time. So there is an add-on that you can do called the IMO search that will have staff not have any spelling mistakes and also have the correct ICD-10 code. But
Is that something new, Chris? Because I don't think we had that before.
no, it's not new, but I can demonstrate it for you if you like. But yeah, it's an add-on, which is probably why perhaps
Yeah.
you
Okay.
haven't-
You don't have, I mean,
Okay.
some of us do that in other systems and it does exactly that, but
Gotcha.
when I input a diagnosis, because I usually do that through the central intake when I'm starting, when I open a case, and I usually have to go to like something online that gives me all the diagnosis if I can't remember it.
Oh yeah, and I can never remember them. So yeah, I totally, yeah. But yeah, there is something available to you, and it's really an easy feature. You know what? I'm just gonna quickly. So here I'm in a demo database where, if I can move to this chat stuff, see, it's the same looking page, but under condition, it's actually a search box where I can type in the word that I'm looking for, and then click on this little IMO search button that doesn't show up in your database. And when I do that, I get a whole list of all the different items that match that word. And I can then sift through and find the one that matches, and then click select, and you'll see that the ICD-10 code is correct there. So that's just an easy way for you to do it. But again,
Are we gonna implement that on ours? Cause that would, just like Celia, I Google ICD-10 codes.
oh, gotcha. Yeah. And I know from experience that is not the best. So,
No. But
it's
I
fun.
think that's something we would have to discuss with
yeah,
Chandra and Sri and I don't, because this is an add-on, so I assume it's add-on to the contract.
yeah. It's like I wouldn't even know how much money. I don't do money. But yeah, it's an add-on. Great. So let me just go back to your database though. And here, after I put in my condition ICD-10 code, I then can put in the order level, which is I can identify this as the primary diagnosis, secondary or tertiary, but it's not required. Again, I do want to point out, if your supervisor says, hey, I always want to see if something's a primary, secondary, or tertiary, you're going to always do that. However, from a software standpoint, it's not required. Diagnosed by, this is a drop down, and this can have people that show up here. I'm just going to keep this blank. The onset date and end date, again, not required. And the comments box is simply a text box. I'm going to keep all of those items blank. And then to save the page, I'm going to click this green save button. And that's going to save my information on the page. This is the confirmation page. It's now in read-only mode. I can always edit this information by clicking on the little green edit button. I can add a second diagnosis by clicking on the new button. I can go back to the index by clicking on the little arrow, and I can see my index there. And last but not least, I can also return to the face sheet by clicking this return to face sheet button. I'm going to click on that button, and true to its name, it's going to return me to the face sheet where the diagnosis information shows up there. All right. Any questions about this? All right. Your next assignment is to enter in a diagnosis for your person. Oh, where did I put that? There it is. You're going to enter in a diagnosis for your person. If you have any questions whatsoever, please let me know, and I'll be here to answer all of them. So we're on our face sheet. And I don't want to spend so much time on the face sheet. There's a lot to awards other than the face sheet. I do want to show you that you can access, of course, sort of a one-stop shop, the face sheet, right? Where you can access all this nice information for the individuals that you serve. However, if let's say you needed to update, an item that's on the person's face sheet, but you don't want to go to the face sheet, you can actually access a lot of different information on the home screen here. So things like the medical module. If I clicked on the medical module, well, there's a lot of items here, including the diagnosis information that we were previously entering. And if I just clicked on this diagnosis button, it's going to bring me to that diagnosis page that I was previously on, where my primary diagnosis for the person that I was working with shows up. So I want to show you that there are 2 doors to the same room in awards. Also, if you go this way, you can update multiple people's diagnosis right here. So maybe you have a stack of diagnoses to put into awards and you want to do that for Bruce Wayne, you can do that. But then you can quickly get to Man-Bat or Batman, excuse me, and update that person's diagnosis here as well as any other person. So again, 2 doors to the same room, and you can access the diagnosis from here. And I do want to point out, once you update this information, it updates throughout all of awards. So if your person is in more than one program, then that diagnosis or that medication or whatever it is will be updated in every single program that they're in. Okay. Now I want to talk about updating external addresses, because it's something that did come up during the admission process. And I want to show you where you can actually update the external housing. And that can be done from the home screen. I'm going to click on the census button. And under census, there is this housing button. Under housing, I have 3 options. And I just want to point out, I have 3 options for my housing button because this is a residential program. If this wasn't a residential program, I won't have all these buttons. However, one of these buttons is this external housing. And this is where I can update my person's external housing. So here, if I wanted to update their external housing, I can click external housing. And I can choose my person. I'm going to choose Mr. Wayne. And then click the continue button. On this page, this is the external housing for my person. Here I can say that, if they are in a shelter, I can enter in that information. It's required, has a pretty red asterisk. The move-in date, I have to put in a move-in date. I'm going to say the 1st of the year. I'm going to keep this move-out date blank. So I'm going to say that they're still there, or, that's their external housing. So that's that. If it's a facility, I can put in that facility name, including the address, of course. And a phone number and county if needed. You'll see below here that this person has an internal agency housing history, and that information will be displayed because, again, this is a residential program. And to save this page, I click on the little green button, and that saves that information. And that is how you update a residential, an external housing for your person. Any questions about that? All right. I want you all to enter an external address for your consumer. So you're going to leave the face sheet and you're going to go to the census module and you're going to click on housing and then click external housing. You should all have that regardless of the training program that you're in, Posterity. So if this person moved since you put them in the shelter or wherever they were, you have to put in this move out date here. And
That's
I'm gonna
correct.
I'm gonna say the second. And then down below here, this is where you add the new external housing, where I'm gonna say, their own apartment. This move-in date, there can't be any gaps. I believe you have to put in it has to match the move-out date. And here you just put in the new info. My apologies, I did keep on doing Main Street.
So I think that's where they get stuck is the gap. So because some of our clients move so often and so much
Mhm.
that, you may get a new worker that is not aware that the client moved 3 times before. They're only aware of the client moving now. And they end up putting like the date that they moved in that they know of, but they don't know when they moved out of their previous date or previous residence. So I think that's where they get caught up. The
Yeah.
only reason I know that is because at the end of the day, they come to me and say, can you change this address?
Gotcha. Gotcha. So yeah, so it's good to know that, perhaps they don't know the move out date. They can put in the move in date for the new address and just make sure it matches, because then awards won't give you an error. Like if I do the 3rd, I believe awards is going to give me an error. No, spoke too soon. Let me just try that again. So let's see if I do the 2nd here, will it give me an error? Why is it not giving me an error there? I'm just going to update this for Bruce again. And I'm going to say that they moved in on the 6th. And why am I never getting an error? Interesting. I will make note of that because, but yeah, I have definitely had an issue with that myself. But yeah, I'm just gonna make a note of that. Before I do that, I see Hope as a question. Chris, I only have 2 options in my housing drop-down box: nightly absences and resident swap. Gotcha. Hope, you're actually going to skip this assignment or activity because not everyone has the ability to do this. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, and let me just make a note of that. Okay, great. So not everyone has to do this assignment. Great, thank you so much. All right, we're going to continue on with our agenda, and I want to show you how to do resident swaps or bed swaps. Now, is this something that Tracy only you do, or is it something that all staff do?
I'm sorry, my front staff called me. What was the
Oh, no,
question
no
again,
worries.
Chris?
I want to show everyone how to do a bed swap, but is that something that only you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're all just gonna watch me because I'm gonna show you all what Tracy does when someone swaps a bed. Okay. So what Tracy does is Tracy goes to the census tab. She of course chooses the correct program and then comes down to housing. And then there is this resident swap here. When I click on this button, I'll get to a pretty looking page here where I can, on the left-hand side, this is going to show you all of the apartments and all the people that are in all of those apartments. And
So Chris, there's a step before that, before you can do the housing swap though.
Oh,
You have to
okay.
put in the new address first before I can swap out the house, because obviously the address isn't in there because the client moved. So I have to put the new address in under the right program first, then go
Oh,
back to the
interesting.
housing swap part.
Oh, interesting. So these residents, so my apologies. When I do resident swaps, I think of it as like my agency owns the building. It has like X amount of apartments or beds in that building. And so I can then easily choose someone and then swap them with a different apartment. But it sounds like the way you're using it is you need to add the apartment itself.
Correct.
Oh,
So I need
interesting.
to add the address, say a client moved from, and sometimes it's in there if they move to our locations. But a lot of our clients move out in the community, so I have to add their specific address first to the actual program. It has to go into the right program. And then go over here and then swap them out of that unit and then go back in and delete their old address
Huh.
from in the system. Otherwise, I'd have a million addresses in the system that aren't being
Interesting.
utilized.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to use that. I've never encountered that, but we're gonna assume that you did that step already. So when I come here, Bruce Wayne over here, I can then choose a different apartment. I'm gonna say that unit 95 here, that is vacant in all capital letters. No one's in that. However, if Sally and Bruce swapped apartments, I can choose this apartment 97. And here, when I swap the units, Sally will then be in unit 98 and Bruce will be in unit 97. So that's usually how we document resident swaps. The relocation date, I'll tell you this, you should be mindful of, Tracy, you probably know this, you want to do this as soon as possible. So I'm just going to choose today's date. And then all Tracy does is click the swap units button. And now Sally now is in unit 98 and Bruce is in unit 97 as of today. So that is resident swaps. Any questions about that?
Okay, so that date is actually very important. So when staff send me, I got a few of them today, client moved, I need to know when that client moved, because in order, if I'm utilizing another address that we have in the system, in order for me to do that, it'll already be occupied
Mhm.
if they don't give me the correct date.
That's right. So make sure that date is correct. Triple check it with your individual.
Yes. Thanks, Chris.
Thank
Chris,
you.
I have a question.
Yeah. What can I do for you?
Even though Tracy do her stuff on her end, where it says once you swap out the residents, I see where it says update their phone number. You can also, before you swap them out, update their phone number since they're going to another residence and then hit the swap units.
That's a great question. So this update phone, I honestly don't know why it's here. But here, if I click on update phone, it will select, what is it? Yeah, it's going to select the person that is in the first item here. So Dan Cooper. If I click update phone, it's going to have Dan Cooper's phone. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. You should update that on the face sheet. You don't have to come
Okay.
here and update the phone here. If it was up to me, if I had my say, I would remove the update phone here because I want you to do that on the face sheet.
Okay.
All right. Great. All right. So if there are no other questions about this, I now want to talk about adding a medication to your person's chart. Because I want to go through the MAR with you all. So to add a medication to your person's chart, you can do that from the face sheet, or you can come here to the medical menu. And again, it's alphabetical. If you click the medications button, you'll be brought to your medications page where I can choose my correct program, correct program and person. I'm going to keep it on Bruce Wayne here. To add a medication, I click the little green button. I get a nickel every time I say that. When I click little green button, here is my medication page where I can enter in my medication for my person. This name field is a search box. So here, if I wanted to put in Abilify, if I type in Abilify, it's going to show me all the different options for Abilify. And you'll see there's a lot of different options here. You're to find the milligrams that you're looking to enter, and then select it by simply clicking on it. Up at the top here, the strength will automatically default to the strength that you selected. The RX norm, well, that is the RX norm that is showing up. Oh, and I do want to point out that if you click on that little button, you'll get a pop-up, but you don't ever have to click on that button. That's just an RX nav button. Here for start date, well, you put in, of course, the start date, when this person start taking this medication. If the medication has an end date, you can, of course, put in an end date. Maybe they're on until, December 31st, totally fine. The dosage and frequency are required. So here I can say it's going to be 1 tablet. And here for frequency, it's going to look for a number. And then in this next field, you can enter in these day parts. I also want to point out, you also have this as needed option where you can choose as needed. Now the dosage and frequency are required. However, if you're using the SIG, you actually can leave the dosage and frequency blank. And that might be something that you use. And here, an agency I used to work for, they used to have like a SIG code, like a coded words for the SIG. I don't know that coded words, so I'm just going to say 1 tablet as needed. But that is the dosage, frequency, and SIG. Below that, there's instructions, just a text box where you can say like take with water. Below that, there's scheduled times. Now, if you are administering medications, you want to have the scheduled times here. So here, to enter in scheduled times, you can click on this little clock icon and it'll default to when you clicked on it. However, if you say, all right, yeah, I want to put in the person gets this at 9 a.m. And here, if you click the tab button or just click away from it, it will add that 9 a.m. And here you can also bypass the little clock by just entering in this information like 12 o'clock p.m., for example. And that's how you add scheduled times. Medication details, if this is psychotropic or self-administering, you can enter in that information there. This medication flag, if this is a controlled substance, you can enter in that information there. The route is a big old list of different routes that someone can take a medication. It's not required though. However, if your supervisor says, hey, I need you to put that information in, you're going to listen to them and not me, right? Over the counter or prescription is in fact required. I'm going to make my selection there. The drug type, if it was branded or generic. And any other information, again, maybe you know the RX number, you can put that in there, and all this other information as well. All these other fields like purpose, source of knowledge, rationale for change, these are all available to you, but I'm just going to save this page by clicking on the green save button. And that brings me to a confirmation page where I have successfully added a medication. Any questions about this? Anything anyone wants to add about this?
No, but this is very important for obviously for the residential program, because they have their medications inputted into here. This is how they administer. So they use the MAR for the, every day, and it's, unless something goes down with the system, that's exactly what we'd expect.
Yeah.
Is that it's done in here.
Excellent. Yeah, this step is going to be important because without doing this step, you can't do the MAR, not only in this training, but for your person. So let's all do an assignment. I'm just going to go to my slide. Here, I want you all to enter in a medication, enter in a dosage and frequency, enter a scheduled time. So if you've already done this, hello, Hope. if you've already done this and you didn't enter in a scheduled time, I want you to edit that medication that you just entered, and I want you to put in a scheduled time. I want you to fill in all the required fields, and then when you're done, I want you to write done in the Zoom chat. One. The next item that I want to talk about today is the MAR. You can access the MAR by following these steps. From the home screen, click on the medical button. And here for the program, you of course are going to choose your training program for today. Once you click the medical button, you click the medications button. Here, the medication that I previously entered shows up. And to the left, there is the MAR. It is MAR, all capital letters. When I click on this MAR button, I'll be brought to this page where I have the medications that I've entered in previously. This medication shows up twice for me, and that's because there are 2 scheduled times to this medication. That's why it shows up twice. At the top of the page, you can see it has the person's birth date, gender, any allergies, and diagnosis information. Administration done by, well, this is a drop down where I can select whoever did this. I'm going to say that this test person did it. And you can see I can change this administration from and to whichever I want. I do also want to point out that when you come to this page, you may not be seeing any medication. And that is because you won't see a medication if it's not scheduled. If you want to see unscheduled or all medications, you can choose any or either of those options. And you can see.
Chris, I was going to ask you a question about that. So
Oh,
is
sure.
that something that just defaults to scheduled?
Yes.
Can it be changed to default to all? Because we have a lot of clients who are on, what's a word? As needed PRNs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know that answer. However, I'm going to ask and get an answer for you.
Oh, thank you.
Apologies, I just want to do that in the appropriate channel.
Can I say something regarding the MARS?
Absolutely, you can.
I noticed when we pass our medication and if there's, like Cecilia just said, if there's not a medication that we see, we do hit all. Some of them will stay unscheduled. We still have to go there and hit it. But I think what we need to do going forward when we put the medication in there, even though the times, it should update on the MARS, but if Cecilia's putting it in like the updated, if that time is not there, we have 2 slots that actually have a time. And then we still have that same medication say unscheduled, but of course we always hit the one with the time. So I have clients that have medication in there that's duplicates because one has the time and then one has unscheduled. So it's like we have a long list of medications that some of them need to be taken out if they're not, the ones that say unscheduled, because we looking at the scheduled and unscheduled, which are the same medications.
Right. So the reason for that, there's a reason for that. So the medications that are scheduled, well, they're going to have this scheduled time. Now, it could be that, well, maybe it's outside of this time frame that you're administering a medication. If that's the case, that's when you would want to change it to unscheduled, because this time you're telling the software, yeah, I'm not administering this at the scheduled time. I'm doing this on, whenever they needed it, which is, could be anything. Could be like right now, for example, which is outside of that time frame, right? So just want to point that out. Does that make sense?
No, not at all.
No. Okay. So
What I'm saying is, and I know I have other SRCs on here that know what I'm talking about. We have medications, like I have a house that has medications in the morning, 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. So if I'm passing out maybe a 4 p.m. or 8 p.m. medications, it's on the MARS. But if you keep strolling down and you hit all, you're gonna see those current medications for the scheduled time, but you're still gonna see those medications say it's unscheduled. Where some of the boxes, it requires you to hit something, it might say NA because it don't allow you to put that time in, which should be off the med sheets because we always already have the scheduled medications with that time. So it's like a duplicate that shouldn't be there.
Okay. I understand. So let me try to do that. So you're saying you go to the MAR here, you and put in the meds that you administer.
Mhm.
And I'm going to just, change this to 9 o'clock a.m. And here, by the way, for everyone else, you can identify if this is on time or not.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm going to say that, yep, this one is 2. I can change the dosage if I wanted to, but I'm going to keep it the same. This key code, well, I'm going to say that this was administered. This one was administered. And I'm not going to be doing this unscheduled one.
Right,
okay?
because it's already at the top for 12 p.m.
Right, but you're not administering it, right?
No, not at all, because it shouldn't even be on there, because once again, it's a duplicate. If he's not taking that medication the rest of the day, that unscheduled shouldn't be there. Should just be one set medication and time. It shouldn't be a duplicate.
Right, but you so the reason why this is there though is because first of all I'm filtering it by all, but it's because let's say I gave this person the medications at the appropriate time, right? And then at 3 p.m. when they're not scheduled to have this, they need this medication again. I can then come into the MAR and do this unscheduled one and say that, yeah, this happened at 3 p.m. So then you can identify when exactly this happened. Does that make sense?
That would be correct, but if you already got that medication in the MAR, and like you went back to the MAR, you see where it says dosage, even if you don't hit the dosage, you hit SIG, you will be writing in that SIG box, take 1 tab 3 times a day. If you're taking it 3 times, then you put that time in, it's automatically on the MAR, it's gonna give you those times, and you're gonna sign for those appropriate times. Like it's gonna have a time for 8 a.m., 4 p.m., and 8 p.m. Unscheduled shouldn't be there if you putting it in at the correct times.
Well, Elisa, I think what Chris is trying to say is that there may be a time when, they're decomping or something like that, and you call the doctor and the doctor says, give them another one of these. And this
And you would hit
way,
that
when,
medication, and where Chris just said, see where Chris got on time, you would hit that medication if it's almost somewhere in that time frame, and you would put, is it said on time, you would put no.
That's what messes this up.
And that's where our client, our staff is having a problem because we got 2 duplicate medications that's saying scheduled and unscheduled. So I don't have to call a doctor if they don't miss the med, and if they only take it once a day, and he say, well, give them that med. If it's in that time frame, maybe a couple of seconds off or maybe hour, then you will put where it says yes or no, you will hit no, and in the comment box, you will put down why. It should never be a duplicate medication.
this
Very good
probably is not the
explanation.
place to make that
Right,
discussion,
goes-
so
that goes
why
in the
don't we have that,
comments.
why don't we have that discussion outside the training?
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't able to properly articulate that. But
To show you the difference. So you can always go into view options here, view options there.
Okay. Well, and when I go there.
Larry, got a mute.
oh, yeah, sorry, Mr. Ross, we heard your conversation, and that's okay. I'm happy if someone's there to help you. So so this, when I filter by all, I'm going to see a third option for my medication, even though I only have 2 scheduled times. There's an unscheduled where I can say that I administered this. Maybe I administered it at 2 a.m. in the morning, right? So if that's ever the case, I can identify it here. This on time is never going to say yes or no because there is no on time for an unscheduled medication. I can change the dosage. Maybe it was just half a pill. I can say if it was administered or not, and any comments as well. To save this page, I just click the green save button. and a box will pop up asking me to sign off on this. And this is where you need an e-signature pin. I'm going to enter in an authority level that I completed this medication. You can also say that you just recorded this medication as well. I'm going to enter in my 5-digit pin and then click the sign now button. And the page will be saved. So that is
They recorded, when you're saying that you did the recording, that could be if someone else did the administration, like maybe earlier in the day and the system was down and couldn't do it. So the supervisor had to come in and enter in what was on, maybe on the paper. Right, and then that they recorded that there was an administration, correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is absolutely correct. Great. Any questions about this? All right. I want you all now to administer a medication in the MAR. So you're going to go to the MAR, administer at least one medication, and then e-sign it, of course. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, the next item that I want to talk about today, and I'm going to be skipping around our agenda because, to be honest with you, I don't like just doing the face sheet all at once. I find it boring. That's why we skipped around and did some MAR and some medications. I now want to show you support contacts. So I will point out that on my screen here, I have my session has expired, and I just want to quickly show you that if I try to click on anything. So if I've logged out, or excuse me, if I haven't logged out, if I just didn't touch anything in awards, it will log me out from inactivity. So I do have to log in again. I'm going to do that. Great. So support contacts is old functionality. We're actually phasing it out, meaning we're not going to be using it all that much longer. Now, what I want to show you is what we are going to be using moving forward. However, your agency has not started using this functionality. So this is going to be a demo only. And then I'm going to show you how to add a support contact, something that you are using. So I want to show you the providers module, and you will not be doing this data entry. So here, this is something that will be coming to your agency soon, but not yet. So under the medical module, there is this providers option. Here, when I click providers, this is a very familiar page where I can choose my consumer. I'm going to choose Mr. Wayne, and I'm going to add a new provider to my person's chart. I do that by clicking on the little green button here. When I click on that little green button, this is the provider page where I have to specify the role/type. This is configurable. I can have this be whatever I want it to be, like speech therapist. Under provider, this is where you can search for your providers, where if I type in some letters, I will see some results here. Here you can see I have Dr. Dreamcase, for example. I'm going to select that person, and that provider shows up here. I can then go down here and look at the provider information for the location. I can also enter in any start date information. So perhaps this person became the provider on the 1st. I can do that. And I can also add an end date if needed. Any notes go down here, just a simple text box. And to save the page, I click the save button. That's my confirmation page where I have added a speech therapist to my person's chart. So that is the provider module. That is something that you are not yet using. But I do want to let you all know that this is something that you will have to start using soon, because what you're currently using now is support contacts. And this is, again, really old functionality. I don't love it, to be honest with you, but I'm going to show you how to do this data entry. So to do a support contact for your client, you go into the medical module. By the way, I say the people that you serve, I see that they're called consumers. I have a tendency to call people clients or individuals, and my apologies about that. I hope no one's offended. But here again, to add a support contact, I'm going to go to medical, and then I'm going to click on this support services contacts button. When I do that, I'll be asked which person I want to add a support contact to. I'm going to choose Mr. Wayne, and then I'm going to click this continue button. And here is the support service contacts page, where I have a whole list of items like intensive CM, day program CM, psychiatrist. That's right. The face sheet does allow you to add and update providers, and also this support contacts for sure. So these are all of the items here. You can see this page is very clunky. There's a lot of different fields here that are just sort of scattered about. At the very bottom of the page, above the apply button, there are some required fields here. These required fields are actually a little bit of a misnomer. If this person's a physician, or like, let's say there's a speech therapist for this person, and you don't see that role, well, that's when you would use these required fields here. Okay. However, I'm just going to add a physician. So I'm going to call this person Dr. Tooth. I'm going to put in the agency and the phone number, the address if I put it, if I need it or have it. Any of this other information, the as of, I'm going to need, and then any comments I can put in the comments box. So you can add multiples of all these people. You can see there's an authorizing option where you can choose a nurse practitioner, physician, or psychiatrist. And these options are here because you can then put in the state license information, as well as the Medicaid provider ID and all that other information. Any questions about this? To save this page, you scroll down to the bottom, click the green button with the capital letters. And if you did not put in something correctly, like I didn't, and my phone number format was not correct, I will get a pop-up. If you're like me, you want to get away from error messages as soon as possible. However, in awards, they're actually very useful. They will tell you what exactly is the problem. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to then correct my phone number. And you can see here, I can't just put in the phone number like I had it before. I have to put in a parentheses and a dash, all that good stuff. I'm going to do that for also for this person. And then I'm going to scroll down and click Apply Update. I'll be brought to a confirmation page where it will only show me the information that I just entered. Any questions about how to add a support service contact? Okay, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is simply add one support service contact for your person. And then when you're done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. The next item on the agenda that I want to talk about is how to add a hospital episode to your person's
It looks
chart.
like, excuse me, it looks like Harvey had his hand up. I
Oh,
seen that.
my apologies. Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't looking at that. Harvey. Hi, Harvey. How can I help you? And thank you so much.
Did I have my hand up? I didn't have my hand up.
It looked like you had a hand on the thing.
Oh, okay. That's what I probably did. I'm sorry. My bad.
Oh, no, you're
Just want to
fine.
make sure you're acknowledged if you want to say something. That's all. My bad.
No, I appreciate that. Excellent. All right. So the next thing I want us to do is to add a hospital episode to our person's chart. So our person slipped and fell, whatever the reason is, and we need to document in awards that they went to the hospital. So to do that, you can do this from the face sheet, mind you, or from the home screen, you can come here and click on the hospital button. It has a little red building button. And here, the first option here is episodes. So when I click episodes, I'll be brought to this familiar looking page where I can choose a different consumer if I want, and then click the little green button to add a new hospital episode. When I do that, these are all the hospital / facilities in your area. I'm going to choose one of these at random. The treatment is required, so I have to put in a treatment. I'm going to say that. Oh,
Sorry.
that's all right. You have a question? All right, no problem. If you have a question, though, feel free to unmute. But here, the treatment is required. I'm going to say that my person went to the ER on a medical reason. I'm going to put in an admission date. I'm going to say that they were admitted on the 1st and they were discharged on the 5th. The reason / outcome, this is where I put in the reason. I'm going to say that they slipped on a banana peel. So many people in my trainings always slip on banana peels. Feel bad for them. And you can, of course, put in outcome. The comments is simply just another text box where you can put in the comments. To save the page, you click the save button, and that's how you enter in a hospital episode. Easy peasy. Any questions about that process? Okay. I'm going to have you all do an activity, and that is you're all going to enter in a hospital episode. The admission date is going to be 12/3/2022. Discharge date is going to be 12/4/2022. And when you're done, you're going to write done in that Zoom chat, please and thank you. So we've added a lot of information on our person's chart. We just added a hospital episode. However, I do want to show you that on the face sheet's always going to have current information on it, right? So I'm going to search for Bruce Wayne from any page in awards. And I'm going to go to Mr. Wayne's face sheet. Oh, was there a question, Mr. Ross?
No.
Okay. So here's Bruce's face sheet where all this nice information lives. You can see that the provider, there's the speech therapist. When I scroll down, I have my support service contacts where I have this information. And if I wanted to update any of these items, I can do so from the face sheet. Just want to point that out. Here you can see the entitlements for that person. You'll see that the hospital episodes, well, it doesn't have anything here. And you might be thinking, we just added a hospital episode. Why isn't it showing here? Well, that's because the face sheet is only going to show you current information. And Bruce was discharged from the hospital on like the 5th. So that's not a current hospital episode. With that being said, I can always update the hospital episodes and also view any previous hospital episodes by clicking on this update button. When I click on this update button, you're going to see an index with absolutely nothing. And you might be thinking, well, all right, well, awards is broken. It's not showing me the information. However, that is not correct. Awards is correctly showing you no information because it defaults to, on the left-hand side, this current option. If I choose the all option, I'm going to see all of the hospital episodes that my person has ever had. Now from here, I can add a new hospital episode just like I did before. And I'm going to do that really quick. I'm going to add a new hospital episode. I'm going to say that they're now in rehab for their broken leg. And their admission date is the 7th. They don't have a discharge date. I'm going to say rehabbing broken leg. And I'm going to save this information. Now, when I return to the face sheet, and I can return to the face sheet by clicking return to face sheet now. When I return to the face sheet, it's going to take me to my hospital episodes where I now have a current hospital episode because my person does not have a discharge date for that hospital episode. So that's how you can add and update any hospital episode and any other item on the
It also sends you out alerts to let you know in the awards.
yeah.
So it'll signal your awards mail and let you know when the discharge is also, because that has to be input.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And that's also good to know because perhaps you're the primary worker or the case manager for that person. If someone else adds a hospital episode for someone on your caseload, you will get a message in the messages module. And I'll just go to the messages module here. And I actually don't have it turned on for my person, but I would have a message in here indicating that a hospital episode has happened for that person. I don't know why. I guess I don't have that in internal audit message, but you will. So that's great to know. All right. The next item I want to talk about is how to add a provider appointment to your person's chart. So your person has to go to the doctor for whatever reason. To add that to the person's chart, you are going to click on the medical menu and then this provider appointments button right below medications. When you click provider appointments, you'll see a page, should look familiar to you. You click on, you guessed it, the little green button. Here, the provider options, this is going to show you the providers that are on that support contacts. I'm going to choose Dr. Tooth here. The date, I'm going to say that this dentist appointment is for tomorrow. I can enter in the time here by putting in the digits, or I can click on the little clock icon. The duration, I can enter in the duration if I know it. If this requires a staff escort, I can select someone to be the staff escort and put in the travel time as well. Reason for consultation is required. So here I'm going to say, this is a checkup. And then to save the page, simply click the green save button. And that is how you add a provider appointment. Now, once you add a provider appointment, you can also add a new appointment on this index. However, I want to show you on the index for the provider appointments. I'm just going to click on this little arrow button here. That there is an icon. It is a provider appointment form that you can print out to take to the provider. And this is optional. I do not know if your agency is using this. However, I'm going to show you the functionality. So you can see that there's a little clipboard here. To access this clipboard, I have to check off the appointment that I'm talking about. I'm going to check off that appointment. You can see all these icons show up. There's a creepy eyeball if I just want to view the information. However, this clipboard button is a form where if I click on it, it's going to open up a form in a different page. It's not going to be in a different tab. And here, I'm just going to show you it in pretty big. And here you can see the person's information. There's Dr. Tooth and the address. You can see the person's name, including the Medicaid number, the beacon number if they have one. It shows the social, so you might want to just scribble that out, but there's no way to get rid of it. You can see the reason for checkup. You can see it shows you the medications the person is currently on, any allergy information. You can see there's a line for the client's signature. So if you want the person to to give permission to share this with the doctor, you can. And then down below here, there's the medical response where this person, you can print this out, and the person, the doctor, the physician, whoever it is, can then put in this information and then also sign off on it. By the way, you can print out this page by, again, on this page, there is your agency logo on the top right corner. If you click on it, it's going to show you the print preview where you can see this information shows up like so. Any questions about the provider appointments or the provider appointment form?
I just actually wanted to make a comment because I've been bringing this up a lot, but residential programs, especially those that are in the houses and that have to take their clients to the doctors, or they have appointments or whatever, this is really what we should be using. Especially if they're going to a non-scheduled appointment, something that just had to come up and this is a great way to, in the comments, make sure that you're putting in any concerns that you have, so the doctor can review it with the client, and if the staff is there to review it with them also. But it's really important to be using this.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Well, then your task is going to be to add a provider appointment, enter a reason for consultation, and then when you're done, I want you to write done in the Zoom chat. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. The next item on the agenda that I want to talk about is actually what happens once a program appointment or provider appointment is completed. So here you can see I have my provider appointment for Bruce. I changed it to today at 9 a.m. So once an appointment is completed, I want to show you, or in the past, I should say, the page we were previously on will look slightly different. And here I'm just going to go back to provider appointments. And here you can see there are 2 appointments for Bruce. I'm going to go to my 12/8/9 a.m. appointment. And I want to show you that the page looks a bit different. This now shows up in read-only mode, first of all, where I can indicate if the appointment was kept or not. I'm going to say that it was kept. And here you can put in the provider impressions / diagnosis and the recommendations / follow-up. So these are just text boxes where if you maybe talk to the provider, or maybe they wrote down their recommendations or impressions, you can enter that information here in these boxes. You save the page by clicking the green save button. But that is the provider appointments once the appointment time has passed. Any questions about that? Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the SAM baseline. And am I saying that correctly? Is it just SAM baseline, or am I saying SAM? SAM, thumbs up. Oh, okay, great. The SAM baseline, that's a form that you all built, and it lives in awards. Let me show you where it lives. From the home page, I'm going to click on the medical menu, and then I'm going to click this forms button. Under forms, there are a bunch of different forms here. The last one is SAM baseline, because this list goes alphabetical, just like the other options on the medical menu. So here, to add a SAM baseline, baseline to my person's chart, I click on this, the word SAM baseline. Here, I can select my consumer and then click continue. On this page, I simply click create new SAM baseline. And here's the form. The form is a little bit like a section on the face sheet, meaning it's in read-only mode at first. And to update this section, just like a section on the face sheet, you have to scroll down to the bottom of that section and click the green button to update that section. Here, when I click update, it flips open into data entry where I can enter in the date and answer all of these required questions. You can see I'm not being too mindful about this because I'm not a clinical trainer, just showing you how the software works. I want to show you that you put in text in here, you answer all these questions, and when you're done, you click the green save button. You can see that I have an error message. The consumer recognizes the major side effects of medications is taken. That means that I did not answer required field. That's why I get that pop-up. When I click OK, I have to go back here and I have to find out that information or find that question, and I can answer it, and then I can save the page. And that's all there is to it. So I do want to point out, forms can be changed from how you currently see them. Okay, that's important to know because I do want to point out that we have enhanced forms in quite a bit in awards. And I say that because we now have the ability that if the person answers no, like if the person doesn't know why they're taking a medication, there can be now a conditionally required field or conditionally displaying field asking you to explain why, or that sort of thing. So I'm saying that just so you know that you can enhance this, and you can also add additional fields, and also you can also bring in the medications module or any other module into this form so that you can see that information. So it's just want to point that out. You might want to note that for follow-up discussion with your Foothold representative about adding those fields or those sections in. Okay. All right. So with that, I want you all to simply complete a SAM baseline. Remember, this is just a technical training. You don't have to answer all the questions in a way that makes sense. I want you to get in the habit of knowing where and how to do it. I see a lot of you are already done. That's great. When you are all done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. Thank you all so much. Recording. All right. Who here does plans and reviews? Show of hands. Anyone excited about it? Anyone want to know more about it? Yeah, plans and reviews. They're great. I personally love them. Let me show you how to enter in your admission notes and then your initial plans and your plan reviews. So that's what we're going to tackle next. So to do that, to enter in the person's plan, there are two ways to do that. We can either search for a person, click on their name in the results page, and then click the plans and reviews button. Or we can come down here and click services individual, and then click this plans and reviews button. That's what I'm going to do. When we come to the plans and reviews index, you'll see on the index, there are two items here. The first item is this admission note, okay? And it has a due date of 12/1/2022. So this is to be done upon admission for a person, okay? So this is the first item that's due. The next item, this is the actual service plan. This one is due on the 29th of December, okay? So let me show you how to enter in an admission note. You simply click on the name admission note. And when you click on the name of the admission note on the index, it'll bring up the admission note, where you can see it opens up to this, the person's stated needs, strengths, and self-assessment. You can also see the diagnosis information that we previously entered shows up here. And that shows up because we brought in that section of awards into this admission note. And here, these are just text boxes where you're going to put in that text. You're going to be very mindful to do this in with your real people, but with this fake person, I'm just going to put in the word text, and then I'm going to click the save button. The next step is to add a short-term goal. And to do that, I click on the appropriately named add short-term goal button. When I click on that button, I have a goal statement. Here, I'm going to, what's an example of a short-term goal? Anyone want to shout it out or tell me? Let me write it down.
Housing,
What's that, Tammy?
to get housing.
I'm sorry, would you mind saying that one more time?
Sure, to get housing.
Ah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. To get housing. Great. Wonderful. That's a fine example. The next step for every goal needs an objective. And you add an objective on this page by clicking on, again, appropriately named Add Objective button. Here, when I click Add Objective, I get one whole text box. This is where I can put in an objective that the consumer will do to achieve this goal. What's an example of an objective to get housing? Anyone want to shout it out?
Client will look for housing through checking the newspapers.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. That's a fine example. Now, every objective needs an intervention. And to add an intervention, you click on Add Intervention. When you do that, you'll get not only a text box, but also a drop down here. So what this intervention means is this is what the staff is going to do to help the client achieve this goal. Okay, so what's an example of what's a staff intervention would be?
Staff will review, will obtain information for the client to review, and staff will go over the information with the client to ensure that the client is aware of what he or she needs to do.
Great, thank you. I think I got the gist of that. But that is an example of a great staff intervention. The next thing to do is to add this staff service. And this staff service, like I said, is a drop down. This drop down is going to have a list of all of your service types for the program that you're in. I do want to point out different program types have different service types. Okay, so you might be looking at this and being like, hey, these don't look familiar. That's okay. It just means that your program has different service types, and that's okay. I'm going to choose one of these at random. I'm going to say that this is skill development services. Again, I'm just going to do this at random. To save the page, I'm going to click this save button. And I now have a goal with one objective and one intervention. So that is how you add a short-term goal. Now, goals can have more than one objective, and objectives can have more than one intervention. Okay, I do want to point that out. Now, of course, Celia, perhaps your agency has a strict rule about this. Is that correct for your agency? Do your goals have more than one objective normally?
Well, it depends on the program. With residential, and of course the needs of the client. So with residential, they have to have what we've been trying to get into with the service plans is having one main goal statement, the primary goal statement, and then the 4 restorative services for licensed residential. Other ones like care management might have a goal and then 2 objectives. It really depends on which program it is.
Gotcha. Great. So I'm going to show you how to add another objective and another intervention after the admission note. We're going to do that in the initial plan. Okay, but those same rule applies. The same rules apply for the admission note as they do for the initial plan. Okay, but the next step after you added a goal is perhaps you need to add more than one goal. So you can add as many goals as you want by just simply repeating that process and clicking add short-term goal, adding a goal, an objective, and any interventions. Okay. Once you've added all of your short-term goals, the next step is to go up to the attributes tab. And you can see there that this is a menu with all these different tabs. The attributes tab is going to have a due date, and it's going to have 2 other date fields. I will point out, most people find this page very confusing. Let me try to make this not confusing for you. So the due date, that's the date that the plan is due to be completed. Okay. That's like you checked out a book from the library. Does anyone remember a library? Anyway, you used to check out a book from the library. They would stamp it with the date that the book is due by. That's like the due date here. Okay. That's the date that this plan is due to be completed. The done date, you don't have to worry about the done date. The done date doesn't really do anything. Okay. So just ignore it. Because, and I usually tell folks that because this effective date, this is the magic date. This whatever date you put in here, that's when staff can start writing notes based on this plan. Okay. So if I chose, let's say December 1st, then staff can start writing notes for this person based on this plan on December 1st. However, maybe, December 2nd was the day that this plan should be in effect. They can choose December 2nd. It doesn't have to match the due date, but it can if you want it to. Does that make sense? Anyone have any questions about that?
Now,
If
this
we
is
don't have,
yeah.
if we don't have a done date, it won't generate the next date that the next one is due.
False. Done date, again, does absolutely nothing. So in fact, what's that?
So I have, I'm sorry.
No, I was just actually going to say that although the done date does not do anything, it does when the state comes into audit and they want to make sure that the fields are there and that everything is kind of matching. So they look at dates as in, like, if you don't have a done date, they're going to have, might have a slight, like, how come you don't have a done date in here? And it's not all filled out.
However, let me just say again here that I'm going to keep the done date blank. However, when I save this page, it's going to fill in the done date with the effective date.
Cool.
So you actually don't have to even think about the done date. I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Thomas.
What happens is that when we have kids enter into the program, we have 30 days to complete their initial progress, a service plan.
Yeah.
And then it's reviewed every 90 days after that. So how does this impact that? So the due date would be 30 days from when we actually do the intake or admission.
So the done date doesn't impact anything like that. So first of all, this is the admission note. The admission note is on the day of admission, and what's already being scheduled, no matter what you put in for the effective date, there's already an initial plan scheduled for 30 days after. Okay.
All right. It's automatically. So it's kind of like a default. It's a default.
Exactly. Yeah, so you don't ever have to worry about that. With this effective date, what it's doing is it's telling the system staff can start writing notes based on this date about this plan.
All right.
Daisy, do you have a question? Of course. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Daisy, you feel free to unmute yourself. Hey.
Hi. I have a quick question. So for my other programs, we already have an intake assessment tool that we use that was configured when we first brought in awards. But I have another program and I've been working with Rachel to get that configured in the system. But my question is, because I haven't used the plan and reviews or these admission notes historically because we had our own tool, but I'm finding that this actually may be more simplified. My question is, can these be configured with a few other things that I may need for this new program I'm bringing on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Also, if you don't need an admission note, you can get rid of the admission note. It's very customizable. If you've ever built a form in awards, and I don't know if you have, but it's very easy and we can train you on it. You can watch videos about it. It's very, very customizable.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. Thank you. All right. I'm now going to add, I've edited an effective date. I'm now going to save the page. And I just want to point out again, done date blank, right? So want to point that out because it's like a little magic trick. But here, when I click on the save button, I get a scary pop-up. This scary pop-up is just letting me know that, hey, you've added an effective date. When you click this save button down here, it's going to lock the plan from future edits. Okay. I'm going to click this save button. And when I click the save button, my plan is now locked. And look at my done date. It now has to, the 2nd of December. So it matches that effective date. So just want to point out again, to make this page less annoying or less, sorry, not annoying, maybe not the right word, to less confusing. Done date, you don't ever have to worry about it. Just worry about the effective date, okay? Now, if I were to go to my other tabs, you'll see all of these fields in read-only mode. That's because I added that effective date. And now that this plan is locked, okay? I can't edit any of this information. Now, if
I have a question.
Oh,
I have a
sure,
question.
sure.
So if you can't unlock the service plan, how do you update it? Oh, I'm sorry, this is just an admission note. My fault. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
I retract that.
But you know what? It might happen, right? You might
Right.
get to a point where it's like, oh, darn it, I forgot to add X, Y, and Z to my admission note.
So the admission note is just what we use to derive our service plans from. Would that be correct?
I don't think so.
No, the service plans are actually derived from assessments, but what the admission note is primarily the residential program uses that because
Okay.
they have to have an immediate needs note in there when they're admitted into one of their residences. But I know with care management, and I assume with your program, that 30 days means 30 days. So you'd have that time period to assess the individual, and then from that assessment, you would then complete your
Service
plan, right?
Exactly, right. Okay,
And
thank
I just went in there, turn yours on. And so I did one. Sorry, I'm trying to get Larry to turn his down. It was echoing.
No worries.
So I did a mock one, and I did not put the due date in. So what it did not do is generate 28 days from there, like your example came up with 2 there. But when I did it and I didn't put the due date in, the done date, it wouldn't generate the next one for 28 days further. It just merely states that that admission note has been done. So in order for the notes to continue, that's what we normally use, a done date as well.
Suzanne, does it show the same exact date? The effective date and the done date is the same. Is it the same date?
I put that in there. You have to, it doesn't generate it by itself. I put, no. Yes, it did. It generated that date. It did. However, what it didn't do is generate my automatic prompt that 28 days, I have to do the initial service plan.
Now,
That's what it won't do.
I'm sorry. So if first of all, if you're using this training program,
Yeah.
yes,
That's what I did.
great. So I want to point out on underneath calendar, there's this plans and reviews. It's like a little
Right.
like you can go back to the index, and here you can see I actually didn't change anything here. It's already set up for this.
Right, it generated that because you see here, it had a done date on there. And so if you put a done date in, then you get all that, and then the next one's generated. I didn't put a done date in, and I didn't get that second column.
So
I didn't get it.
So so this shows up automatically when I come here to the admission note. Like if you were to replay.
It doesn't on our system because actually my department works with the service plans all the time, and it won't generate that second, because sometimes people do try to leave it out.
I'm so sorry.
And they won't get it. So I don't know if our system is defaulted not to. It won't.
We're gonna
Go
have to
under,
agree to disagree.
Who did I do?
Suzanne, I have to do one today, so I'm gonna use what he said and see if it'll
Yeah.
generate.
Right, right. Because what happens is, it won't,
I can assure you, like, if I
Uh-huh.
were, if you want, I can take time out of our training to go through an admission. I'm gonna do Sam Apple. And I can show you without me doing anything,
Uh-huh.
there's gonna be an initial plan and an admission note on my person's page here.
okay.
All right, so Sam Apple is in my program. If I go back to services individual, plans and reviews, I'm gonna choose Mr. Apple. You can see here, there's a plan, there's a service plan that is happening on 1/5, and that is, so I didn't put in a done date.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
How did that already come in there with Jerry's name on it
Yeah.
though?
Because I chose Jerry's name as the
Yeah.
primary worker. That's why that's showing up. But that's just
Oh.
the auto schedule that happens. It has nothing to do with the done date being entered. I promise you that.
Okay, because the one I just chose,
Oh.
it didn't have anything in there, and I did the admission note, and it
Is-
wouldn't
Okay.
on the training, yeah.
It could be that maybe that was that the person that you used today for
No, it wasn't who I used earlier, it was,
yeah. If you use
started with the F.
who's the person that you
Let me
entered?
go back in here, Frank Lundy,
Frank Lundy. And
Yeah.
here for Frank Lundy,
yeah,
no, I don't know why that it doesn't have another plan in there.
right, that was my concern, so I wanted to know what are we
Right.
doing different?
Oh, I'm
Because-
sorry. I'm sorry. So is this the person you admitted today?
No, I was
Oh.
going to one in here that already had, when I went in
gotcha.
there before, other people had some. They
Yeah.
had
so
other people. The first one, Daisy's name was in there, different people's names was in there, so.
I
wasn't
gotcha.
able-
So who?
Yeah, I
but
wanted
who
to get a
did you
blank
admit?
one.
Who did you admit though, if you don't mind me asking?
I had John Doe, and then I had,
Mr.
Clark
John?
Kent. I used him for something when you mentioned.
Okay. There you
I've been
go.
all
So-
over the place.
Gotcha. So here, if I go to John Doe, because you admitted them, then
Yeah.
there's an admission note and a service plan. Now, all
Right.
those other people, they may have different things, and
Yeah.
that's because A, they've been in this program for a very long time.
Mhm.
B, the plan process has probably changed since they've been in this program, and that's
Okay.
why you're not seeing what
Oh,
I'm
okay.
expecting you to say. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we were able to figure it
Yeah.
out. Awesome. Okay.
Because John Doe has it, but the other guy didn't.
Yeah. Only
Yeah.
use the person that you created today.
Okay,
And
I
you'll
got you.
have- Yeah. Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Very cool. Of course.
Yep,
Thank you.
mhm.
That's what this training's for.
Yeah,
Great. I love it. So I want you all, oh, now here it is. I want you all to complete an admission note. I want you to add one short-term goal. I want that goal to have one objective and one intervention. And I want you to put in an effective date. I want you to try to actually put in an effective date of 12/1/2022. Okay. When you're done, I want you to write done in the Zoom chat. If you're getting any error message, or perhaps you were using Bruce Wayne and I already did that information, let me know. I can try to find someone new for you to use, or you can use the person that you were working with. All right. Let me know, and I'll talk to you all soon. So we have a fake person in a real program, which not great. Let's never do that. And I can see that the person discharged this person with today's date, which is fine and all. However, I want to show you functionality that lives in awards that you can just erase this person from ever existing. If you happen to do this, and as you can see, it happens. There is this button underneath status that's called program history corrections. It's like a little screwdriver and a hammer. This is if you need to change or correct someone's program history, including deleting them from ever existing in awards. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and I do want to point out this is a high level item. Not everyone's going to have the ability. to do it.
probably with Chandra, I'm the only one that would have that permission.
Gotcha. Great. So let me show you how this happens or how this works. I click on this button. This is my page. I simply am going to delete this person from ever existing in this real program. I'm then going to scroll down and click the update button. And awards is going to say, hey, are you sure you want to delete Strawberry Shortcake? It's delicious. And I'm going to say, yes, please delete. And this person is now removed. Now, if I search for Strawberry Shortcake, they do not show up. So that is how you fix an issue like that.
So Tammy, you can,
able-
if you log out and log back in, you should have access to both the CR supervised housing and the your program as HP for training.
But are we able to do that? See it like for me, when I do central intake and that, or say there's some mistakes from my admin staff that they'll put in, and like maybe there's 3 of the same person, but they're not accurate. They have one that says central intake that's put in the right way, and then 2 are just files. Are we able to delete those? Am I able to delete that? That would be so much easier.
I don't think so.
So there's a couple different, not all these scenarios are going to be the same. Like just because that person's in there 3 times doesn't exactly mean that that's incorrect. And there are different levels of like correcting that information, and you don't have to go through program history corrections. Like for central intake, especially, you can actually go into that intake form and actually delete the referral. There's a button to delete the referral if that's something that you're ever.
So it's more like somebody's trying to admit them into a program.
Mm-hmm.
And they do like a half admittance and they don't do it properly. So you'll see a file with the client's name 3 separate times on there.
Right.
And because they haven't admitted them properly 2 of those 3 times, I still have the other 2 that are down there unfinished. That's what I mean by like, can I delete them out? Because when I am training new staff, they get a little confused
For
when
sure.
they see 3 different ones in there. And I know how to merge. Like if I see a client that's got 2 different records and they should all only have 1 record, I know how to merge. It's just a matter of taking those 2 unfinished records out.
Gotcha. So if they're unfinished records, what you can do, and like this is probably not a great, there are 2 Bruce Waynes here, but they're both like, completed, right? Although, you know what, maybe I can show it this way. So this person's in training central intake. And if I wanted to delete this person or remove them, I can actually go into the central intake program and delete them. You want me to show you that, or are you talking
No,
about?
I know how to do that. I'm saying
Gotcha.
files that aren't complete. So you'll have Bruce Wayne there 4 times.
Mhm.
And it'll show that he's in central intake. But then it'll show it doesn't have an accurate awards ID number. It'll say 269.
Right. And so that's actually correct. So like that is their referral. Like people can have many different referrals. Let me just let me go on my other screen and try to simulate what it is that I think what happens for you. Just give it one moment. Just trying to find an example of this. You know what? I'll just create an example. You know what? If we have time after the training, perhaps we'll talk about that. Okay.
Okay.
All right, but yeah, it's a good point to bring up, and I definitely do want to, satisfy your needs. And we can talk about that at the end of today's training, okay? All right, anyone have any issues with this? I know someone just got it in or just got access. Tammy, you just got access to this program. Perhaps you didn't complete this step, and that's okay. We're gonna talk about, I'll give you someone new in just a couple of
Okay.
minutes, okay? All right, so we've all added in an admission note. Now what that means is, well, that person's admission note is completed. And now I want to show you how to, in fact, write a service plan, an initial plan for your person. And it's very similar to the admission note, to be honest with you. You go from the homepage, you can click services individual and then plans reviews. I do also want to point out that you can first select your correct person. And it's on this page where I've added my admission note, and it's now time for me to work on my person's service plan. So I can do that by clicking on this line on the person's plan. And here, this is awards opens to this individual's traits, where I have some text boxes where I put in the person's goal and criteria for discharge. And I can save the page by clicking the save button. Now, the next step after you enter in the individual's traits is to add a goal to your person's plan. And you do that by clicking on the Add Goals button. When you click Add Goals, you'll get a goal statement. And I do want to point out that your admission note, all the information on your admission note doesn't carry over to this service plan. Okay, and that's by design. It never will. This is now your person's plan that you're going to be working with your person on an ongoing basis. So here, I'm going to say that Bruce will find housing, because maybe that is their, one of their goals. The assessment statement, rationale for goal statement, just a text box, as well as collateral input. These are just text boxes. There's nothing required there. It doesn't have a pretty red asterisk like the goal statement. Every goal needs at least one objective. I'm going to add an objective here. You can see this objective has an objective text box, and it also has a start and target date. So those items are new to the person's plan. And I do want to point out, depending on your program, you may see different options here. Okay. Here, I'm going to say that Bruce will go to open houses. The start date, I'm going to put in the start date of yesterday. The target date, I'm just going to choose the date in the future. I'm going to say February 14th, Valentine's Day. Every objective needs at least one method, and you add a method by clicking on the Add Method button. When you click Add Method, you get some more fields here. You first get this the text box, where this again is, what is the staff going to do to help your client achieve this objective for this goal. So I'm going to say that staff will find open houses in the area. You can put in a start date and a target date. The staff methodology is required. Staff methodology is going to be the service type. So here I'm going to choose a service type. I'm going to say that this is going to be daily living skills, for example. Method outcome. This is, and I want you to make note of this, Celia. You might want this to show up on the person's review, not so much on this page. And that's an option that you can actually change on the person's on your plans, because this outcome, it feels like it's a review field. However, you guys have it as something that should show up on the first plan. But anyway, you can leave this blank, or you can, in fact, use the drop down. To save the page, you click the save button. And now this one goal has one objective and one methodology. That's all that my plan needs to, in fact, be active. However, like I said before, a goal can have more than one objective, and an objective can have more than one method. Let me show you how. So let's say this objective of Bruce will go to open houses. Maybe staff will find open houses in the area. Maybe that's one thing staff can do. But maybe another thing that staff can do is add another methodology. And I'm going to say that staff will prompt Bruce twice a week to look for open houses. So that's another method that staff can do. I can, again, set a start date and a target date. Staff methodology, it can be the same methodology. Maybe it's something different, whichever one you want. And then you can then go down and click save. Now this one goal has one objective with two methodologies. Okay. Now, let me show you that a goal can have more two objectives, and you add an objective to your person's goal by clicking on the add objective button. So Bruce is going to find housing. They're going to go to look for open houses, but maybe there's something else that they need to do. I'm going to add objective. And here I'm going to say that Bruce will look in the paper for new homes. I can put a start date and a target date. Now this objective, now that I've added it, this too needs a method, because every objective needs a method. Okay. If you don't add a method, you will not be able to write notes based on this objective. So here I'm going to add a method, and I'm going to say that staff will buy the paper for Bruce. We look for open houses. I'm going to put in a start date and a target date. A methodology. And then I can just simply save the page by clicking on that save button. And now my goal has two objectives, and one objective has one methodology, and one objective has two methodologies. So does that make sense to everyone? I know there was a lot of talking and a lot of words in there, and I do apologize, but I hope I made that pretty crystally clear. Crystally is not really a word. Anyway, my apologies for that. So the next step is then to add more goals to your person's plan. And this, your person's plan may only have one goal. It may have more than one goal. But here I'm going to add another goal, and I'm going to say that Bruce will, I don't know. Bruce have better hygiene. I'm going to add an objective. I'm going to say that Bruce will brush their teeth 2 times a day. Again, I'm not a clinician. I'm just using this as an example. I'm adding a target date. I'm going to then add a method where I'm going to say that staff will prompt Bruce to brush their teeth. And I'm going to put in a start date and a target date, as well as a methodology. So now my goal has one objective and one methodology, which is the bare minimum that a goal should have. At this point, you can add yet another goal, repeat that whole process. I'm not going to do that today because I don't want us to be here all day. The next step is to then go to the signatures tab. under the signatures tab, we have all these different people that we can have sign off on the plan. So the person, the consumer or client, or whatever you call them, shows up here by default. You can then select your own name for staff signature if you're the person that should be signing off on this. And then if you need a qualified mental health rehab person to sign off on it, you can of course choose that person. I'm going to choose Daisy. Apologies if you're not the right person for that, but I'm just using you as an example. When I click this save button, Awards is going to send a message to those people that are to sign off on this plan. Okay. Now, depending on how your agency wants to use this, some agencies say, okay, the supervisor has to look over the plan first, and then they'll sign off on the plan, and then they'll make the plan effective. Other agencies are like, staff can make plans effective, and that's fine. How are you guys using plans and reviews? Is there a process so that supervisors check the work, or not so much?
In youth services, we check the work.
Okay, great. So let me show you. So if I click this save button, what that's going to do is that's going to send a message to my messages module where it says plan available for your signature. I then click plan, click on that item. And here you can see I indicated myself as the staff signature, but we can just pretend I'm the supervisor. But here I can click here to open the plan. And what that will do is it will in fact open up that plan in read-only mode, where if I was the supervisor, I can take a look at this plan and be like, okay, this goal has an objective, it has a methodology, that's good. Same thing with objective and method, great. Here's the second goal. This goal has one objective and one method. Looks good to me. I can then now sign off on this by clicking the click to sign button. I also want to point out your client can also sign off on this from here as well. To sign off on it, I just click to sign. I then put in my PIN and then click sign now. And that's my signature. Any questions about that? All right, that was a lot of stuff, and we're gonna.
I have a question.
Oh, great. What do you got?
Okay, when we're doing a signature, it's got this section over the client's name where the client can, we can click the client in for electronic signature.
Yeah.
But the box will come up, but how do we actually get what client information go in there? That's
great question. So if you're using the signature pad, which I don't know too many people that are using it. Yeah. Okay. We can get rid of that, by the way, Celia. You can tell us to get rid of that option.
Yeah, we have they have the touchscreen
perfect.
computers.
Great. So then what you would do is on this page, you would click allow client to sign or consumer to sign, and then choose the touch option, and then click OK. And then they get the big white Etch-a-Sketch where they can put in their signature.
Okay.
And then, I mean, Batman, it's fine. Anyway, they click sign now, and that's how they do it.
So it's all about getting the client to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. And by the way, I don't know if are you meeting with people over Zoom? No?
Not clients, usually my
The clients, yeah, no,
Okay, cool.
they're in-house.
Gotcha. I asked because
Your people are in person.
right, in person, right.
yeah, not a problem. Great. So then that's how you would have them. That's the process you would use. Any other questions?
Chris, can you show me how you did that a minute ago?
Sure. Which part?
To get to the client to sign?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Let me show you. Yeah, let me get to another plan because I already signed off on this plan. Let me go to Homer Simpson's plan. That's the person I used to test your database. So I originally went from the messages module to get to that page where I can sign. There's another way to get to that page, and it's from the plans and reviews index. So no matter what page you're on, you can click home and get back to this page here. But here I can check off the box that's to the left of the service plan that I want to take a look at and also sign. And it's on the index here that there's a creepy eyeball. It's not really creepy, it's just an eyeball. I just think all eyeballs are creepy. Anyway, you click on the eyeball and your plan will show up in read-only mode, where you can scroll down, and here is where you can allow the person to sign. When you click on that, you then click the touch option, and then you click the OK button. And then the Etch-a-Sketch appears, and you can have them sign by touching the touch screen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking. Okay. All right. I want you all now to, and let me know if you have any you get stuck anywhere, but I want you all to add a service plan to your, enter in a service plan for your person. So you're going to enter in text and the individual traits. You're going to add 2 goals to your person's plan. Each goal should have 1 objective, and each objective should have 1 method. You're then going to go to the signature tab, and you're going to select your name for the staff signature, and the supervisor is going to be Trainer Awards. And last step is you're going to go to the attributes tab, and you're going to enter in the effective date of 12/7. Now that's a lot of steps. So just want to let you know I'm here for you. Because I have a pop quiz for you. Pop quiz. A service plan must have at least A, 1 goal and 1 objective, B, 2 goals, 1 objective and 1 method, C, 1 objective and 1 method, or D, 1 goal, 1 objective and 1 method. Answer in the chat or unmute, whatever it is that you like. And the answers are rolling in. And it is, in fact, D, 1 goal, 1 objective, and 1 method. That's at least what a service plan needs. Next question, true or false? A plan can be signed, but not in effect. True or false? Wish I could play the Jeopardy theme.
So
that is true. A plan can be signed, but not in effect. A signature does not add an effective date. So that is true. Great job, everyone. Last question for you. Then we'll resume our training. We'll talk about doing a service plan link note and also plan reviews. But before we get to that, which tabs should be updated before an effective date is entered on a plan? Is it A, goals, B, individual's traits, C, signature, or D, all tabs? Which one is it? Tammy sent me a direct message with the correct answer. How about anyone else? Which one of these, A, B, C, or D? No, you're fine, Tammy. The answer is D, all tabs. And I say that because awards will not let you know that you did not update any of the other tabs. Okay, so it's important to know that it's up to you and your staff to enter in and update all of the tabs accordingly. Okay, so thank you all so much for playing. I do appreciate you all doing that with me. I now want to now, actually, my plan I didn't put into effect, so I'm just gonna quickly add my plan for Mr. Wayne to be in effect. And I do want you to see that I e-signed this plan. That's what this icon means on my index here. This locking key just means that it's signed. And when a plan is signed, I can still click into this item. And when I do that, it's all in read-only mode. Okay, so I just want to point that out. Now, again, just like the question previous, a plan can be signed, but not in effect. So here, this effective date still blank. To add an effective date, I simply have to click on the date here. I'm going to put in 12/7, click the save button, scary pop-up appears. I'm going to then click the save button. You'll spy that the done date now now shows 12/7, and my effective date is also 12/7. So now when I click on plans and reviews right underneath the calendar, my index has updated, and it updates with the effective date for the plan that I just entered an effective date for, but it also auto schedules a plan that's 3 months that from the due date of that first service plan. Okay. So that's awards doing that automatically just because I added an effective date there. Okay. All right. Any questions about that process? All right. It's now time to talk about progress notes. Progress notes can be found by either searching for your client, clicking on their name and clicking on the little progress notes button, or you can click on the home button and then click services individual, make sure you're in the correct program, and then click the progress notes button. When I click on that button, I get my consumer dropdown where I can change my consumer to who I want to write a note for. I'm then going to click the continue button, and I'm brought to the progress note editing index page. This page, from here, I simply click the green continue button to add a new progress note. So that's what I'm going to do. Here on this page, I have some required fields. It has a pretty red asterisk for service type. And here you can see all the different service types that are available for my program. Here, I'm going to select one of these service types. The location is where this location took place. I'm going to say that this happened at this program site. The service types on ISP today show up underneath my person's name. And they show up because my person has a service plan. That's what ISP means, individual service plan. And here, when I hover my mouse on these initials, it says, daily living skills and also assertiveness / self-advocacy. By the way, I do want to point out, you can have your awards representative change this to just say the words. I kind of don't understand why we have it. And my agency also has this as well. Has it as just initials. You can have it so that staff know what exactly the service type is without hovering your mouse on it. Anyway, I digress. Below the service types on the ISP today, there is this date here. This date is not the date that you're writing the note, because that would just never change because you're always writing the note today, right? However, this date is when the contact took place. So if you met with your person yesterday, but you need to, you didn't write a note until today, you change this to yesterday's date and then put in the start and end time that you met with your person. So here I'm going to put in my start time. I'm going to say that this happened at 4:00 p.m. You can see that the end time defaults to 4 p.m. And that's because this duration is required. And this is where I can put in the duration of my contact. So awards really wants to know what, when you met with the person and for how long. I'm going to say that I met with my person for 1 hour and 5 minutes. You can see the end time updates accordingly. Below date, there's face-to-face. That's either yes or no. It defaults to yes. Contact method here. If I chose face-to-face as yes, then I can choose in-person or telehealth. If I chose face-to-face as no, I can choose anything but in-person. I'm going to say phone call. You can see here down by progress note type selection, this page defaults to service plan linked. That's what we're going to keep it on, and that's what I'm going to keep it on, and then click this continue button. When I click continue, I'll be brought to this page. This page is showing me the goals, the objectives, and methods that are on my person's plan that have this service type associated with it. Okay, that's why I see 3 options here, because these 3 methods have to do with this service type. Okay, I want to point that out because there may come a time where you're writing a note and you're like, oh, I didn't work on any of these with my person. That's okay. What you can do is use the awards button to jump back. Again, never the arrow at the top of the page, always this awards button. And when you do that, you'll be brought back to this page where you can select a different service type. And I'm going to choose this self-advocacy one. And then that's all I'm going to change, and then click continue. On this page, I now only have 1 option here. And the reason why I only have 1 option is because this one method has this service type associated with it. So awards connects the dots with the service plan by using the service type. Does that make sense? I miss doing on in-person trainings. Hopefully that makes sense to you all. Now, let me show you what may happen. Harvey never noticed. That's okay. Let me show you what may happen if staff start writing progress notes, especially service plan link notes. They may come here and forget to put in a different service type. And when they come here and click continue, they might come to this page. And this page, what it's telling you is that, hey, there are no service types or no methods on your person's plan that match this service type. So that if you ever see this page with this red box, that's what that means, is that you're trying to write a service plan link note, but the service type that you selected isn't on your person's plan. Okay. So to correct this, I'm going to use the awards button to jump back and then select a service type that's on my person's plan. I'm then going to click continue. I'm then going to choose the method that I was working with my client, and then click continue. Here I can finally add the narrative of my note. Here I can say what I did with Bruce. And I can save my note at any time by clicking on the Save Note button. And that is how you add a progress note, a service plan linked progress note. Any questions about that process? Okay. Now, I want to point out that from here, you can sign off on the note by clicking that click to sign button. You can also go back to the note index by clicking on this note index button. I do want you to know that as soon as you sign off on a note, that note is locked and you can no longer edit that note. Okay, so I want you to be mindful of that, because as you can see, I didn't write too much for the note narrative, right? Because maybe I got a phone call, I was in the middle of writing a note and I have to drop what I'm doing and go take care of something. That happens all the time, right? So I saved my note. I can always come back to my note by simply going back to services individual and then progress notes, choosing my person and then clicking continue. Here's my note index. On the note index, this is the note that I previously wrote. To edit this note, or delete the note. Maybe you wrote a note for the wrong person. You need to delete it. You're going to follow these steps. First, you're going to click on the button to the left of the date that you've written your note, and then scroll down and click the green continue button. On this page, everything is editable. So you can change this to whatever you want. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to simply click continue. Here, I can change anything I want here and then click continue. And here I can continue writing my note. Once I've done writing my note, I can then save my note, and that will override the previous note. However, if you ever need to delete a note for whatever reason, there is this new delete button over here. And this is a two-step process. If you click this delete button, you'll see a confirmation page where you'll spy that my mouse is all the way at the bottom. I really have to drag my mouse all the way up here to properly delete that note. So there's no accidentally deleting a note. I'm going to click cancel here, and I'm going to save my note by clicking the save note button. And there's my note. Any questions about that?
How do you get method again in the note? I can't seem to access it.
That's all right. So how do you get the method? You mean the all this stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So to get that, and I'm just going to go back to the start. So here you have to select a service type that's on your person's plan. Do you see this box underneath your person's name?
Let me go back. No.
Okay, so if you don't see that box, it means that your person doesn't have a service plan that's in effect right now. Okay, that's your telltale sign. What's your person's name?
He's an actual client.
Oh,
So-
gotcha. Yeah.
So he does have a service plan. So I guess maybe I should go back and make sure the effective date is correct then.
Yes. Sorry,
Okay, thank
I can't. Sorry, I can do a lot of things. I can't look at real people, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I
No
want
worries. No
to
worries.
get in trouble. So
Yes, I totally understand. Great. Okay. Your activity is going to be, you guessed it, you're going to write a progress note, select a service type on your person's plan, and then save your note. If you have any questions at any time, I am here to help you. And of course, when you're done, write done in the Zoom chat for this. All right, so plan reviews. Plan reviews. So from the plans reviews index, you're going to see this this plan review. And when you click on the plan review, you're going to get a scary pop-up. The scary pop-up is just saying, hey, do you want to work on this plan now? It's a yes or no. You're going to click yes because it's March and you want to do that plan review. What Awards are going to do when you click yes is it's going to copy over all the previous information that you had on that previous plan. And you can see that the individual traits has all the information that I previously entered. However, this information may need to change. Maybe the person's personal goal has changed. You can edit this however you want. I'm going to save that. The next step is to go to each goal and review each goal. So here, when I click goals, I'll be brought to this page. You'll see that the goal statement is in read-only mode. I cannot edit the goal statement. I do want to point that out. Below the goal statement, there is an outcome of goal progress where I have to select a goal progress. I do want to point out, whatever I choose here, Awards is not going to act any differently. It's just putting a label on it. To the right of that is the review of goal progress, where I can add the narrative of what happened with this goal over the last 3 months or so. So I can add narrative to that. Below that, for each objective, there's a review of each objective where I can say over the last 3 months, put in an outcome. Any consumer comments towards this objective can go here. And the same goes for all the objectives in my person's plan. Now, there are 3 scenarios for a goal on a person's plan, and I'm going to show you all 3 scenarios. So scenario number 1 is, for whatever reason, the goal needs to be discontinued from your person's plan, okay? If you ever need to discontinue the person's goal, you click on the little red Lego looking button. My colleagues tell me it's a file cabinet. It's a Lego. Anyway, you click on the little red button here. That's to the right of goal. When you do that, it's going to discontinue the goal and all of the objectives and methodologies that are associated with that goal. You then save the page, and that's scenario number 1. You're discontinuing the goal, and you're discontinuing all of the objectives and interventions that are associated with that goal. Any questions about that?
Did I miss this, that, or maybe you're going to go on to it after, but the whole issue with the target dates?
Oh, sure. So what is the issue with the target dates?
So there have been times when and again, sometimes when things happen and staff leave and overlap and then some plans don't get updated, the target dates aren't always updated. So the question is, how do you actually modify if you can't even get into it? Do you have to discontinue?
Great
the
question.
objective?
So I'll be honest with you. I've come across this a bunch of times. Target dates are a thing that are sometimes not required by the audit, or your federal agency, whatever it is, your funder, excuse me. So we've started to take it off of plans because this information, you're right, it's not editable. And so it creates a bit of a problem. I don't want to see old dates here. So, some agencies, they put the target and start dates perhaps on another tab, because on other tabs, that stuff is editable. And so you're able to edit that information and complete it as you go.
And that's something I can do, right? Like I can
Yes.
ask, can you move the target dates to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if we have time, I don't know if we will have time, but yes, you can, in Plan Builder, you can change the look of this tab here, and it can have like target start date, target date, and you can staff can then manipulate those dates. But under the goals, unfortunately, they're locked in here, so it's going to be annoying
Okay.
to say the least. Great question, though. Okay. Now, this is my second goal. I'm going to again do the outcome of goal progress, because I do that for all of my my goals and also my objectives. Now, scenario number 2 is this goal and all the objectives and methods that are attached to the goal are perfectly fine. Nothing needs to be changed. Scenario number 2 is, after you add the review of all of the goal and objectives, you just scroll down and click the save button. That's scenario number 2. Nothing changes with the goal or the objective or the methods. Scenario number 3 is this goal, perfectly fine. However, something needs to change with either the objective or the method. What you would then do is you would discontinue just that objective and or the method. So to do that, I would click on the red Lego button to the right of either the objective or method. And what that will do is it will discontinue this objective and any attached methods, but it would still keep this goal being active. Okay. At this point, because this goal only has one objective and it's now discontinued, I would have to add a new objective with the new start date and the new target date, as well as a new method, because every objective needs a method. With the same start date and target date, as well as methodology. And then I would save this information. And that is scenario number 3, where the goal still needs to be on the person's plan, but something needed to change with the objective and or the method.
In intervention.
Oh, is there a question, Larry or Mr. Thomas?
No.
Cool.
No,
No, yeah, no problem. No problem. Hey, if you do have a question, though, I'm here for you. Just want to point that out.
well, we're back in.
All right. So those are the 3 scenarios for goals on your plan. At that point, the next step would be perhaps to add a new goal. You do that the same way we did that previously. You click the add goals button, you add a goal statement, and an objective and a method. After you've added all of your goals and reviewed all your goals, you then go to the signatures tab and do the same process where you put in the appropriate names, and then you click the save button. Is this PowerPoint going to be available? Which PowerPoint? Oh, you mean the PowerPoint with all the questions and stuff? I can send that to you, sure. So after I added my signatures and I click save, the next step would be to add the effective date once my supervisor has signed off on it. And then I can put in my effective date, save the page, and now my plan is now in effect, and my plan has been completed, or my review has been completed. Any questions about that? All right. So with that, I'm going to ask you some questions. And these questions are going to be about progress notes. So answer in the chat, please, and thank you. To write a progress note, you A, go to services individual, B, search for a client, C, Wendy's, D, both A and B. I'm seeing some D's, I'm seeing some A's. Yeah, the answer is both A and B. You can search for a client and you can write a progress note from there, or you can go to services individual. So it's D, both A and B. True or false question. Once a note is e-signed, you can no longer edit the note. True or false? I'm seeing some trues, and that is correct. Once a note is e-signed, you can no longer edit that note. I do want to point out, there are some people that will have a special permission. It's probably just one person at your agency. Yep, Celia has it, where if you've e-signed a note, you can probably send in a help desk ticket to her, asking her to remove the e-signature. Celia will then be able to remove the e-signature, and then, and only then, will you be able to edit that note.
Most people just knock on my door.
Yes, I used to be that person, so I know that feeling very well. Great. Okay. All right. One last question. The date of a progress note is when your note, when you wrote the note B, when you met with the client. C, whatever you want it to be. Or D, not required. Which one is it? Yeah, I'm seeing some B's, and that is correct. It's when you met with your client. Thank you all so much. I will stop pestering you with these questions, and I'm going to give you an activity. Your activity is to complete a plan review. You're going to edit the individuals tab. You're going to select an outcome of goal progress and review of goal progress for each goal and objective. You're going to discontinue one goal. You're going to go to the signatures tab and select your name and for the staff signature, my name for the supervisor, and then you're going to go to the attributes tab and enter in an effective date. When you're done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. If you were just watching, that's okay. You can also just write done if you're just watching. So I'm not waiting for you. And I know that you didn't fall asleep. If you need someone or you want to practice this, I can give you someone to do. But yeah, that is that. Recording. So if you cannot put in an effective date for 12/8, it's because there's a note written, a service plan link note written for today. And what that means is, well, you can't update a plan on the same day that you wrote a service plan link note. So you're going to need to use the next day, which is tomorrow. So that's the earliest you'll be able to write or to edit a review. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Great job. So we previously went over plan reviews, and I want to talk about a couple of things that I didn't talk about previously that were on the agenda earlier. And I did that on purpose because I don't want to wait till the end of the day to get to the good stuff. So there's some other items that I want to talk about. And that is, one of those items is the client file cabinet. You can upload documents to be in your person's chart. And you can do that from either the face sheet, or you can go to services individual. And then there is this consumer file cabinet. When you click on that button, you'll get to this page where I'm just going to choose the correct person. And then I'm going to add a document to their chart by clicking, you guessed it, the little green button here. On this page, I can put in the name of the document. I'm going to say that this is a COVID vaccine card. That's a normal thing to upload, right? I'm then going to choose the file, just like putting a document or attaching a document to an email. I'm going to click choose file. I'm going to choose the file of my cat. And to save this, I simply click the save button. When I do that, that information has been saved to my person's chart. I can now put the other document in the trash, in my my computer trash. Don't put anything for your client in the trash. But anyway, to view that document, sorry, I'm awkward sometimes. To view that document, you can always view the document in several different ways. From this file cabinet index, you can check off the box, click on the creepy eyeball, or click on this download button. This download button will give you three options. There's a cancel, there's a download, and a preview. If you click preview, a new tab will appear and a picture of the prettiest COVID card you've ever seen will show up. And that is how you can preview that information. It just previews in another tab. So that is how you add a document to
Chris, I just wanted to make note, we do have a naming convention that we use for both the document and the description. We do it the same way.
Oh,
so
perfect.
We always put in it's like the form, it could be Erie County SPO, so it could be EC SPO referral. We do / client name, / date, and then / it could be like a provider, so ECMC. So we do that, and then we copy and paste that into the description, then we upload. That way we can have some consistency across the board of how everything looks in the charts.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Great. You're of course going to listen to her and not me for the naming convention. I'm sure is there a document about that somewhere, or they know that information?
Well, there's very few people who do it right now, but
Okay.
those that they do get trained, like care managers are supposed to do it. Hope
Gotcha.
has done uploading, Deanna, myself. But this is something that, yes, we're slowly getting everyone else to do it.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Now, the next thing I want you all to see is when you search for your client, there is a report on your client on that search results page. That report is going to be super helpful to you. That report is called the Consumer History Report, and it's going to include everything that has ever happened with your person. So here, for example, I'm going to search for Mr. Bruce Wayne. On the search results page, there is this clipboard looking button underneath the awards ID. When you click on this button, you'll be brought to this page where you simply click continue. I wish this button didn't exist. But anyway, you click on this button, and this is your person's entire chart. You can view all of these items here. You can also click on anything that's green and underlined. So here you can see this progress note. If I click on it, it's going to show me the entire note. And I can also sign off on the note if I'm the person that should sign off on it. So I can click to sign. And here I can put in my authority level and my PIN. And my signature shows up on the screen there. And that's the case for
Chris.
everything. Yes.
I didn't see how you got to that page. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Search for your client. So if you clicked on the search box and then just typed in your person's name and then click the green search button. No, actually, let me just do that from here. It's underneath the awards ID. It's this clipboard looking button.
Oh, okay. All right. I see.
Mhm.
All right.
And when you click on that, you just have to click continue on this page.
Okay.
Slightly annoying. Anyway, you click on that, and here is all the items that we work on with my person today, or your person if you search for your person. You can see the plan review. If you want to take a look at the plan review, you click on the plan review, it'll open up in a new tab, and it'll show up in read-only mode, where you can in fact sign off on it right here as well. So just like going to your messages or going to the plan and reviews index and clicking on the eyeball, this is another way that you can sign off on a plan. Okay. So that is the Consumer History Report. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is charting timetable. And Celia, would you mind telling me what items are staff adding items to the charting timetable?
For residential staff, and that could be licensed or unlicensed, technically, their primary documents on the charting timetable would be the RS Functional Assessment 2.
Gotcha.
The RS Utilization Review,
Right.
the what's the other one I always do, the guys? Yeah, well, there's a number of forms, but some we don't use.
Gotcha. Fair enough. I asked because I did a whole bunch of testing, and I saw a couple of forms, but I wasn't sure which form you wanted me to use.
Yeah, there's some that are duplicate in there. I think I finally got some of them removed, but there are like one or two I couldn't remove from that list, just the drop-down list.
Yeah, that drop-down list, you have to talk to Foothold, and they will,
I know.
Yeah, no, it's annoying. So let me show you the charting timetable. So you can add events to the charting timetable, and that's our next task. We're going to add a charting timetable event, and that can be done, again, two different ways to do it. You can search for your person, or you can come here to services individual and then click charting timetable. On this page, you have to select your person. I'm going to choose my person, Bruce Wayne. And then here, I'm just going to click the green continue button. Oh, Mr. Thomas, do you have a question?
No,
Okay,
sorry.
cool. No, you're fine. So here, when I click continue, I'll get a bunch of fields here. The first field is the due date. When is this assessment or chart event due? I'm going to say that this assessment's due on the 23rd of December. The second field is the actual chart event, where I can select which event I want. I'm going to choose this residential function assessment 2. The worker is who is going to be completing this, and I'm going to select myself. You are going to keep the done date blank, please and thank you. And then I'm going to save the page by clicking this update button. I have now scheduled a charting event. Now, let me show you how to complete the charting event. From here, there is this assessment data button, which you can click on. But I do want to point out, I just added an event to my person's chart, right? So what that means is I can go to my person's chart, to the calendar, if it ever shows up, or I can just search for my person's name. And again, I want to show you if on this consumer history report, you can see that residential functional assessment 2 is due on the 23rd of December. Okay, so that will also show up here. Now, let me show you how to complete that. And that is done. I can do that from the search results page, and I can click on my person's name. Oh, and actually, before I do that, let me, sorry, I sometimes get ahead of myself. I want you all to add to the charting timetable the residential functional assessment. Let me put in the number 2 at the end.
2.
Yes, 2. Great. And the worker is going to be you. I want you to put in a due date of 12/23/2022. Great. So that's your task. I want you all to do that. When you're done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. And just to review, you can get to that page by going to services individual, charting timetable, choosing your person, clicking continue, and then adding those items appropriately. All right, let me know if you have any questions and when you're done. Sorry. Let me just quickly go back and show you how to get to assessment data. You go to services individual, click assessment data, choose your person's name, and then click continue. You click this open button and then the second open button, and your form will display. After you fill out all these sections, and there are many sections, you update the signature. Once you have a signature or your name listed here, To sign off on this form, you have to click the printable forms button. When you click printable forms, it's no longer going to show you those update buttons. So now when I scroll down to the bottom, there is a click to sign here where I can in fact sign off on this form. And that's how you sign an assessment. Any questions about that? Okay. Your task is to go to the assessment data, select your consumer, open the assessment, update the first section of that assessment. You're also going to update the signature section, put in your name, and then you're going to sign the form. When you're done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. Embarrassing. The last thing I want to teach you all is how to mark that this assessment is done, or any assessment is done. So once you complete an assessment, and I signed off on this assessment, great job, me. There's one additional step that you may have to do. And I say may because, Celia, this is something you can also do. You can have the signature when staff signs off on it. It can trigger the done date on the charting timetable. However, let me show you if that's not the case for your assessment that you just entered. You can mark this form as being completed, or this charting event as being completed, by clicking on the home button, clicking services individual, clicking charting timetable, selecting your person that you are working with, clicking continue, and it's on this page that there is this done date. And let me tell you something, this done date, really important that you put this in. I say that as someone who has 62,000 messages in awards. Awards will keep sending you messages, not every day. After like 30 days, it will stop sending you messages about an overdue assessment. However, you don't want to get to that point. But you putting in this done date and then clicking this update button will let awards know that that assessment is done, and it will stop sending you messages about it in your messages module.
Well, and also, Chris, it's very important to have the done date, because when I run reports, I run it by done dates. I don't run it by the due dates.
There you go.
It's never going to be accurate. So, so we have to do it by done date, because then we'll know that the form is completed.
Yeah, absolutely. So this step, super important, unless you want to get emails from Celia or maybe a knock on the door or whatever. However you guys.
They have.
What's that?
They have.
So yeah, you want to make sure that that you put in that done date. Okay. And with that, any questions about that? Okay, I want you all to now, you're all going to go to the charting timetable. And let me just go to my slides here. You're going to go to the charting timetable. Let me just take that out. You're going to go and choose the residential functional assessment 2. And you're going to put in a done date of today. And when you're done, you're going to write done in the Zoom chat. And once you do that, once you write done in the Zoom chat, we may be close to finishing our training.